American Comics, opening sign in Accelerator. Chapter 126 heading to Kamar-Taj. Doctor Strange. Lord Dennis. Please give an order. Kamar-Taj needs support now. Yes, as long as Lord Dennis orders, we will immediately set off for Kamar-Taj, and everything will be in time. Yes, we are ready, and we will not back down from any danger. 99. That's right, Lord Dennis, give me an order. Hearing the words of many magicians, Dennis showed a struggle. Everyone calm down. Dennis suddenly shouted. The many magicians below finally quieted down. Kamar-Taj is indeed very important, but the three holy places are even more important, so you must not act rashly. Dennis is very clear that although Kamar-Taj is a holy place for magicians, the three holy places are more important than Kamar-Taj. After all, the destruction of Kamar-Taj is only a matter of depriving the magicians of a magical shrine. But if the three holy places are lost, then the dark dimension life that follows will devour everything on the earth in an instant. The magicians also fell silent when they heard this. Damn, what should I do now? Dennis clenched his fists, but there was a feeling of force that could not be used. Hey, I said Dennis, did you forget we were there? Levi stood up and laughed. Senior brother, you. Dennis looked at him blankly. Let me and Johnny save Kamar-Taj. You just need to find someone to take me to Kamar-Taj. Levi's waved his hand and said beyond doubt. But Dennis has some hesitation, although he has a lot of faith in Levi's strength. But now I don't know what happened to Kamar-Taj. If it is very dangerous, wouldn't it hurt this senior brother? It's nothing. Don't you still believe in my strength? Levi said with his arms folded rather annoyingly. If it wasn't for him being lazy, he could May 27th find Kamar-Taj's position on his own. When Dennis heard this, he remembered the scene where this senior brother defeated all of them in an instant. With this kind of strength, in Kamar-Taj, only the predecessor Sorcerer Supreme can do it. Thinking of this, he looked serious and said, okay, I believe senior brother, let me take you to Kamar-Taj. Lord Dennis, let's go. You stay to guard the holy place. Yes, the holy place will be safer with the protection of Lord Dennis. Yes, Lord Dennis, let's go. The other magicians are scrambling to grab this quest, because in their opinion, this quest is just to lead the way, and Dennis does not need to go there at all. Needless to say, I have to go there in person, and during this period, the holy place will be handed over to everyone to guard. Dennis said sharply. All the magicians were quiet when they saw him being so determined. Okay, stop talking nonsense, let's go. Levi said and grabbed Dennis by the shoulder. He couldn't be bothered to listen to this nonsense. A back and forth is only a momentary thing. Finding Kamar-Taj he can send Dennis back. How can it be so troublesome? On the other side, Johnny took the initiative to grab his shoulder. Immediately afterwards, the three disappeared in the holy place of New York in an instant. King Hyde Tibet Plateau. This is where many countries meet. At the moment in the sky above the King Hyde Tibet Plateau, three figures suddenly appeared. Hey, how are we in the sky? Seeing the surroundings, Johnny was a little panicked and almost turned into a ghost rider. It just made him realize that he didn't seem to want to fall. Don't make a fuss. Levi's glanced at him speechlessly, then looked at Dennis, who was more calm on the other side. Do you know that Kamar-Taj is in that direction? Dennis thought for a moment and then pointed in a direction. It should be behind that mountain range. Levi's looked in the direction he was pointing, and no nonsense went straight to a space moving across the mountains. Isn't that black one Kamar-Taj? Johnny took a closer look and saw a black mass in the distance, but the distance was still too far, so he couldn't see clearly. Levi's looked at the black thing, and his pupils suddenly shrank. Kamar-Taj should not have such a thing. What is it? Dennis was also a little puzzled. You'll know when you get closer. 33 Levi's only felt a little sick when he saw the black mass in the distance, and he used the space to move again. In the blink of an eye, the three of them came to the black pressed tablet they had just seen. Dennis and Johnny finally saw the true colors of this group of things, and their expressions changed drastically. I saw that this group of black bats turned out to be composed of things like bats. These bats were much larger than ordinary bats, with scarlet eyes and sharp teeth. What the hell is this? Johnny's scalp was tingling as he watched. This is a dark creature born from Dormammu's dark power. They feed on magic power and have a strong magic induction ability, and only need to swallow enough magic power. These monsters can multiply infinitely, and the number will never end. Anything will be shredded by them. 99. Dennis explained with an ugly expression. Levi's and Johnny finally understood why Kamar-Taj closed the portal linking the three holy places, apparently not wanting Mordo to take advantage of it. Now the entire Kamar-Taj has opened the ban on defensive magic, but how long can they see these dark bats that can devour magic power? Oops, we're so close, those bats spotted us. 33 Johnny reminded the pair in a low voice. Because of their proximity, these dark bats quickly spotted them. Immediately afterwards, a large piece of dark bats separated and surrounded them. Dennis's expression changed greatly when he saw it. Quick, let's get out of here quickly. Levi's pouted and wanted to kill these dark bats directly, but he saw that the city gate of Kamar-Taj below was opened. Part of the magic band that shrouded Kamar-Taj was also lifted. Immediately afterwards, A middle-aged man in a red cloak rushed out with dozens of magicians. Tilda. After the dark bats that were frantically eating the magic power of the magic prohibition saw that the prohibition was opened, countless dark bats pressed towards the entrance like a black cloud. "Look over there," Johnny reminded. "Sorcerer Supreme, they're here to pick us up," Dennis said excitedly. Levis didn't say much nonsense when he saw this, and directly used the space move to bring the three people behind Sorcerer Supreme and others. "Sorcerer Supreme, come in." Seeing that they had come in, Dennis hurriedly shouted towards the outside. Doctor Strange turned around and looked confused. It was obvious that the other three were still in the distance just now, but he didn't expect to appear behind him in the blink of an eye. "You must know that Kamar-Taj cannot use the portal after turning on the magic ban." Without thinking, Doctor Strange began to order the magicians to retract their defenses and retreat. After everyone entered Kamar-Taj, the magicians who controlled the magic ban quickly closed the magic ban. "Welcome, my friends." Doctor Strange, wearing a red cape, faced Levis and Johnny with no unfamiliarity, and stepped forward to give them a warm hug. Levis looked at Doctor Strange in surprise, as if they were meeting for the first time. "Sorcerer Supreme, that person has a dark aura." At this moment, a magician came behind Doctor Strange and stared at Johnny with vigilance. "Don't worry. They're all friends who came to help Kamar-Taj." Doctor Strange waved his hands. After hearing this, many magicians behind them finally let go of their vigilance. "Let's take your place first. I need to entertain the guests." After speaking, Doctor Strange brought Levis and Johnny into a room. "Sit down, Mr. Vice." Doctor Strange looked very respectful. "It seems that Ancient One has already told you about me." Levis guessed that the Ancient One had already told Doctor Strange about him. After all, the Eye of Agamotto was still in Ancient One's hands when we last met. "This is the magic weapon of Sorcerer Supreme." Doctor Strange took over the position of Sorcerer Supreme. How could he not leave this thing to him? "Yes, Master, she once told me that your strength is not weaker than her heyday, and this time Kamar-Taj's catastrophe needs your help," Doctor Strange said seriously. In fact, Doctor Strange was a little unbelievable when he first learned about Levi's true strength. But this matter came from the mouth of Ancient One, which made him have to believe that the young man in front of him really had the strength to be side by side with Ancient One. Levis nodded. "I promised Ancient One would take care of you, and I plan to stay in Kamar-Taj for a while, so I'll help you deal with Baron Mordo." 35. Then trouble, Mr. Vice. Doctor Strange finally breathed a sigh of relief. Now the dark bats that cover the sky are constantly gnawing at Kamar-Taj's magical ban, and within 3 days, the magical ban will definitely be broken. By then, I am afraid the entire Kamar-Taj will not be spared. Fortunately, Levis came. "Then don't hesitate, I'll go clean up those bats now." Levis stood up, ready to kill the dark bats that surrounded the entire Kamar-Taj. Because of these dark bats, it was daytime, but this Kamar-Taj was pitch black. "Wait, Mr. Vice, don't you have something ready?" Doctor Strange asked in surprise. "What's up?" "Let's turn on the magic barrier, Roar. Let's get some fresh air." Levis waved his hand and disappeared into the room. Kamar-Taj's so-called magical restraints have absolutely no effect on him. After all, his spatial movement is not magic. Use the space move to get to the walls of Kamar-Taj. Levis stretched out one hand, and a large number of flames burst out in his hand, forming a flame phoenix. "Turn on the magic ban." Doctor Strange also followed. Seeing that Levis was about to start, he hurriedly ordered the magicians to open the magic ban. The magicians also saw that Levis was ready to act, so they quickly opened a gap in the magic prohibition in the sky. The magic ban was opened, and these dark bats rushed in from the gap in a frenzy. Just when the magicians were worried, the flame phoenix in Levi's hand was flying high, and the originally small flame phoenix instantly expanded dozens of meters wide. I saw the flame phoenix chirping and charged directly towards the dark bats pouring in from the entrance. The dark bat was not afraid of life and death, and after seeing the flame phoenix, it actually took the initiative to greet it. However, before getting close to the flame phoenix, it was already burned to ashes. In just a moment, all the tens of thousands of dark bats were completely burned. However, this is not the end. Tens of thousands of dark bats are not enough to be a drop in the bucket compared to this huge group of bats. Immediately afterwards, the Levi's controller, the flame phoenix, rushed out directly from the open gap. All the dark bats along the way were burned to ashes. The flame phoenix swelled even bigger in an instant after the magic restriction was released, and a huge flame phoenix with its wings spread hundreds of meters wide appeared in front of everyone. All the magicians in Kamar-Taj were stunned to see this scene. Is this still magic? It's nothing short of miraculous. Some magicians even fell to their knees involuntarily, and began to chant words. Doctor Strange was also a little shocked, and now he finally understood Levi's strength. Only Johnny didn't have any accident. After all, he knew that Levi's even killed the Lord of Hell. What's this little scene? Huge amounts of flaming phoenix kept flying around the entire Kamar-Taj's magical restraint. Just like an eraser, the dark bats will be burned to ashes wherever they fly. In just a moment, all the dark bats were cleaned up. The long-lost sunshine finally fell on Kamar-Taj, which made all the magicians couldn't help but rejoice. However, this is not the end. You must know that it is not only the dark bats in the sky, but also the threat of various dark creatures from the ground. Immediately afterwards, Levis controlled the flame phoenix to fly around the ground, and all the dark creatures were burned to ashes. But the ground also burned with fire. Mr. Vice thanks you for helping Kamar-Taj. Dr. Strange thanked again. Levis shook his head when he heard the words. It's not over yet, Mr. Mordo? Dr. Strange frowned. But we don't know where Mordo is? Don't worry, I have found him, Levis said with a smile. If you want to manipulate these dark creatures, Baron Mordo will definitely not go far. And it is really difficult to find his breath in this place full of dark creature breath. But Levis didn't, and his telepathy wasn't affected. Where? Dr. Strange asked, frowning. Come with me. Levis grabbed his shoulders, and the next moment they both disappeared. When they reappeared, they were already in the forest not far from Kamar-Taj, and a man in a black robe was not far from them. Are you Mordo? Dr. Strange asked, frowning at the black-robed man in front of him. Stephen, I didn't expect you to find me so quickly in April 1st. A cold hoarse voice came out of the black robe's mouth, and then he lifted his hood. An ugly and old face appeared in front of the two of them, and it could be vaguely seen that he was Baron Mordo. Mordo, it's too late to turn around now. Dr. Strange looked at Mordo with complicated eyes. He vaguely remembered that once when his hands were abolished, it was this senior who led him to see the Ancient One magician. It can be said that without Mordo, his hands may never be healed. In his heart, Dr. Strange is still very grateful to this senior. Stephen, you know this is impossible. Mordo looked at Dr. Strange coldly and said, maybe one day I will give up magic, but that day will definitely be after all magicians have been eliminated by me. 39. Dr. Strange couldn't help frowning when he heard this. If that's what you're thinking, then I'll have to stop you. Stop me? Stephen, don't think you'll be my opponent if you borrow someone else's power. I know Kamar-Taj better than you, and how to destroy it. And why do you think I'm summoning so many dark creatures? 35. Baron Mordo said with a look of disdain, and took out the black horn from his arms. After inputting magic power into it, a large amount of hellfire covered him, and the hellfire kept consuming everything around him. The fire of hell? Mordo, you sold your soul to hell? Dr. Strange roared angrily when he saw this scene. Baron Mordo shook his head and said, no, Stephen, this is the essence of magicians. Magicians are just a group of greedy thieves. They steal the power of the world to break the laws of nature. You are like this, I am also like this. Definitely, after killing all magicians, I will give up the power of magicians and let the world return to its normal trajectory. Chapter 127 Baron Mordo the Clown, sign in Kamar-Taj. No, from my point of view, what a magician pursues should be knowledge, the exploration of the unknown, and power is just something that comes with acquiring knowledge. Dr. Strange said solemnly. Do you now believe what the Ancient One taught deceitful people? Baron Mordo sneered. Hey, I said ... Stephen, don't you still think that smacking can make him change his mind? Levi scratched his ears, apparently no longer wanting to hear their debate. The magician will fall into the darkness in pursuit of greater power, so is the Ancient One, so is Caecilius and I, and you Stephen and you. Baron Mordo looked at Levi's, thinking about the power that burned all the dark creatures just now, and knowing that he was shocked now. Now, he can only take out his whole cards to eliminate the person in front of him. So much nonsense, it's just making excuses for your own depravity. Levi's looked at Baron Mordo with disdain, but he did not forget to sign on him before he started. Ding. Did the host sign into Baron Mordo 22? Double experience or super ability? Sign in for double experience points. If you sign into Baron Mordo, even if you give ability, it is probably dark magic or something. He doesn't want this kind of garbage ability, he just needs double the experience. Ding. Sign in successfully. Congratulations to the host for gaining 200 experience points. After successfully obtaining double experience points, Levi's is in a good mood. This is to completely drain all the value of Baron Mordo, and finally he can kill this guy. However, Mordo at the moment was extremely angry when he heard his words. Yes, I have indeed fallen, but as long as the world can no longer be magician, it will be worth any price. After he finished speaking, the fire of hell released by the black horns in his hand actually summoned the hell to appear. So your last trump card is to summon Mephisto, the Lord of Hell? Levi's looked at him with a half-smiling folded arms. Ha 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 tilde. Fear, you have no chance to escape in front of Mephisto's. Baron Mordo laughed arrogantly. Dr. Strange on the side was very anxious to see this. Once Baron Mordo summoned Mephisto's, then the whole earth would be finished. Mr. Vice? Dr. Strange was just about to make a move, but found that Levi's beside him didn't seem to be in any hurry, which made him a little strange. Do not worry. Levi's waved his hand indifferently. In fact, he was also a little surprised. He didn't expect Mephisto's to have a secret hand in this magical world. It seems that Ancient One is right. If he didn't take the initiative to lead out Mephisto's to kill him last time, I am afraid that Mephisto's will be summoned sooner or later. But since Mephisto's has been killed, The trump card that Baron Mordo used is destined to be useless. As predicted, after calling for a long time, Hell has been connected. But Mephisto, the Lord of Hell, has not appeared. This made Baron Mordo a little embarrassed. Impossible. There can't be something wrong? Baron Mordo kept checking what went wrong, but everything went very well, and the gates of Hell had been opened. But why is there no sign of the Lord of Hell showing up at all? Okay, don't look for it. Do you know why Mephisto's didn't show up? Levi sneered with his arms crossed. Why? Baron Morton stared at him with bloodshot eyes as if going crazy. Doctor Strange on the side also looked at him with some doubts. Humphrey, that's because Mephisto's has already been killed by me. You killed Mephisto's, the Lord of Hell? Ha ha ha. Baron Mordo couldn't help laughing when he heard his words. In his opinion, even the Ancient One may not be able to kill Mephisto's, so what if the man in front of him is a disciple of the Ancient One? This is completely out of the blue. Doctor Strange was also a little surprised, but he believed it a little bit. After all, Ancient One had told him that Levi's was no weaker than she was in her heyday. How strong was the Ancient One in its heyday? She could easily defeat Mephisto's, so that Mephisto's would not dare to attack Earth at all. And now the gates of Hell have been opened, but Mephisto's has not appeared. Isn't this the best proof? Forget it. No one listens to the truth. Levi's was too lazy to talk nonsense, and with one move and his hand, the flame phoenix flew towards Baron Mordo. It's that power. Baron Mordo looked gloomy as he looked at the flame phoenix in front of him. The huge flame phoenix that burned all the monsters just now is still vivid in his mind, and now he is facing this flame phoenix in person. He can feel the horror in it. With the high temperature of hundreds of thousands or even millions of degrees, under the control of Levi's, they didn't feel anything on their side. But Baron Mordo felt unparalleled terror. Before he could use the magic, the flame phoenix had already come to him. The scorching heat instantly turned him into ashes. Okay, it's all settled. Levi stretched and turned to look at Doctor Strange. Perhaps because of his old love, Doctor Strange looked sad when Mordo died, but he recovered quickly. Go back. I think you should stay in Kamar-Taj a little longer this time, Mr. Vice. Doctor Strange laughed. Levi nodded when he heard the words. Yes, I plan to study magic to see if I can gain something. 527. This is something the teacher has already promised. Mr. Vice, you can read any book in Kamar-Taj. Apparently the Ancient One had told Doctor Strange about this before he left. Levi nodded in satisfaction. The duo returned to Kamar-Taj. Doctor Strange, as the new Sorcerer Supreme, is still relatively busy, and after he arranged a place to live, he was busy alone. Levi's, on the other hand, was happy to relax. The next day, Levi's had just woken up and was ready to check in with Kamar-Taj. Since yesterday's sign-in count was used on Baron Mordo, the entire Kamar-Taj can only be signed in today, and he is curious what ability will it give him? Ding. Has the host checked into Kamar-Taj? Double experience or super ability? Sign into super ability. Ding. The sign-in is successful. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the automatic secretary magic, with 100 experience points. Magic? Sure enough. 33. Levi's looked excited, and he had previously guessed whether signing in at Kamar-Taj would sign in for abilities like magic. Now that guess has come true, and the magic of automatic writing made him suddenly think of some 103,000 little yellow books. Is this magic similar to that? Chapter 128 Automatic Secretary. 103,000 little yellow books. Levi's took a closer look and found that his automatic clerk was not the same as the automatic clerk he imagined. The main ability of his automatic writing magic is that as long as he has seen the magic, he can automatically record it. For example, a magic's book only needs to be read once, and it can be automatically recorded, or other people can also record the magic that has been cast once. As long as he uses the automatic writing magic, he can enter a wonderful state, and any magic that has been learned can be easily obtained. After realizing the power of this magic, Levis was shocked. Isn't this cultivating him as 103,000 little yellow books? And he has the super ability of Super Brain, which is similar to Index's absolute memory. The only difference is that his super brain can store more knowledge. How strong is Index, who can completely parse 103,000 little yellow books? Levi's does not know, but it is said that he can directly become Mephisto. And magic is very versatile, and magic can do almost anything. Definitely. He didn't care too much about it. As a result, his own strength is strong enough now, with the power of the Phoenix as the main force, supplemented by the super ability, which is enough to make him the top powerhouse in the Marvel world. Second, it is almost impossible to collect 103,000 little yellow books in the world of Marvel, because Kamar-Taj doesn't have that much magic at all. The entire Kamar-Taj looks like tens of thousands of people, of which the magician is even less than 10,000. Even signing in one by one wouldn't be able to collect that much magic. Therefore, Levi's attitude towards magic is to use it as an aid, and some magic is indeed very magical, which is something that super ability can't do. Thinking of this, he stretched and got up to wash, then ate some breakfast and headed to Kamar-Taj's magical library. He will try his best to collect the magic that can be collected. Anyway, It can be automatically collected after just reading it once. 3 days passed in a blink of an eye. Levi spends every day in the library these days. Kamar-Taj's books are indeed a lot of various books, but most of them are unofficial histories and personal biographies. Because every magician travels around the outside world for a certain period of time, and that's how these personal biographies come. And the real magic, Levi's, is just a collection of more than 2,000 kinds. Don't look at just 2,000 kinds of magic, this is already quite a lot. It can be said that 99% of Kamar-Taj's magic has been recorded in his mind. This also includes some dark magic. At the same time, he found that he signed Kamar-Taj's magician, and the abilities he gave were all magic, and it was still magic that was different from this world. It's almost the same as the magic in the magic ban. This gave him more sources for collecting magic, and Levi's thought that signing in on the magicians would be double the experience points. After all, he knows all the magic that a magician can do. Definitely, in addition to the magical gain, Levi's has a major discovery. That's the news about the world's first mutant apocalypse. There is also a close connection between the magic of this world and the mutants, so there are records of the mutant apocalypse. It's just a pity that there is no record of the location of the apocalypse. Simply Levi's was too lazy to look for the apocalypse. If this guy dares to jump in front of him, he can just deal with it. Just then, his phone rang. When I took it out, I found that it was Lorna who called. Hello Vice, there's been no news for a few days. How is your mission? Lorna's voice was a little worried. There has been no news from him for almost a week, and several people are very worried. Levi's was suddenly embarrassed. Unexpectedly, I was busy recording magic these days, and I forgot that I promised Lorna before that I would bring them to Kamar-Taj to play. Vice, what's wrong with you? Lorna was even more worried when he saw that he didn't speak. It's okay, the matter on my side has been settled. Do you want to come to Kamar-Taj to play? Hearing his words, Lorna finally breathed a sigh of relief, and then said, definitely coming, we have already prepared. While Lorna was talking, Clarice, Mary, Katie, and Lauren were all listening, and they were very excited to hear that they could go to the holy place of the legendary magician. Okay, I'll come pick you up right away. As soon as the words fell, a golden circle of light appeared in the room where Lorna and the others were. Immediately afterwards, Levi's held up the phone and walked out. Vice, what is this ability? Lorna and Clarice were stunned. They had never seen Levi's use this ability. This is called a portal. It's a kind of magic. Levi's laughed and walked over, wrapping his arms around Clarice's slender waist. Vice, you actually learned magic? Lorna and the others were a little surprised. After all, magic was only a legend in their minds. Levi smiled and shook his head. Actually, it's nothing surprising. Everyone can learn magic. This time I will take you to Kamar-Taj to play for a while. Maybe you can learn magic too. Can we also learn? Hearing his words, the children were moved. That's right. You guys hurry up and pack up and get ready to go to Kamar-Taj. I'm going to see Mr. Scott and the others. 35. Well, you go. Lorna and the others agreed, and then went back to their rooms to pack their luggage. And Levi's approached Cyclops and Storm to learn about the recent school situation. The students haven't changed much, but as the X-Men alternate students, their strength has improved quite well. Cyclops, Liliazao, even offered to let them join the X-Men in advance. Let's arrange this matter. It's not bad for them to join the X-Men early, just as experience. But I'm going to take Mary, Clarice, Katie and Lauren. Levi's has no problem with the arrangement of the X-Men alternates. When Cyclops and Storm heard his series of names, they immediately showed ambiguous eyes, and Cyclops was even more envious. Being able to handle so many women at the same time, that man does not envy. Where are you going to take them? Instead, Storm asked curiously. Definitely Kamar-Taj, maybe they can learn magic too. Levi's didn't hide it. What did I hear? It's actually magic. Speaking of Vice, when did you come back? And you haven't told us about the mission this time. Logan came in from the door and asked. Chapter 129 Little Loli Wanda, go to Kamar-Taj to learn magic. That's fine. When I call Teacher Kin over, let's talk about this time. 99. Seeing that everyone is so curious, there is no way, Levi's can only tell them about this mission. While Lorna and the others were still packing up, Levi's and Cyclops briefly described the experience of this mission. Knowing that there was an unprecedented major crisis in the magic world, several people could not help frowning. But after hearing that the crisis had been lifted, they finally breathed a sigh of relief. Are you here? Then a big Loli burst in. Wanda, why are you here? Levi's looked at Wanda at the door in surprise. 13-year-old Wanda is already 1.5 meters tall, with long brown hair and a bun face, looking very cute. I heard you say you're leaving again? Wanda asked saucy as he came to him. Well, this time I'm going to take your sister Lorna and the others to Kamar-Taj. Where is Kamar-Taj? Wanda asked suspiciously. Where is the holy land of magic? Speaking of this, Levi's was suddenly stunned. Why didn't he take Wanda with him? Wanda's origin magic power is also magic. Maybe we can let Wanda better control the magic 530. Thinking of this, he smiled and took Wanda's little hand and asked, Wanda, do you want to go with us? Wanda's eyes lit up when she heard the words, can I go too? 9. In fact, when she knew that Levi's was going away, she planned to ask herself if she could go. Definitely, Kamar-Taj is a holy place for magicians, maybe where you can learn something about mastering origin magic power, Levi's explained with a smile. Yeah, I'm going. Wanda nodded excitedly. It's not too early, we'll leave first. If there is anything you can call me, Levi's said to Cyclops and the others. And then dragged Wanda away. On the way, he asked suddenly, by the way, Wanda, do you want to tell Pietro about your departure, or take him with you? Wanda shook his head when he heard the words. No need, Pietro has been addicted to playing games recently, and even training has to be called several times, so I won't call him this time. 5. Okay then. Levi's shrugged. It seems that the last time Pietro got tens of thousands of dollars in bonuses, it was all used to buy game consoles. But it's a child. I'll go with him. Hey, babes, are you ready? Levi's shouted outside Lorna's dormitory. It's ready. Wait, I haven't. 5. Mary doesn't have to bring so much. No, this time, I'm going to the legendary magic holy place, and I have to have a good time. 35. Seeing a few people still sorting their clothes, Levi said to Wanda next to him, Wanda, let's get ready too. Don't worry if you have plenty of time. Yeah. Wanda nodded happily, then ran away. By the time everyone was ready, it was already an hour later. Okay, darlings, we're going. Levi's clicked his fingers, and the next moment, a circle of light appeared in front of everyone, and behind the circle was a street with a Central European century architectural style. To be honest, sometimes Levi's decides that the portal is more useful than its spatial movement, at least not as cumbersome as holding hands. Definitely, space movement also has its own advantages. Everyone walked in from the portal with a look of curiosity. Wow, is this the legendary magical place of Kamar-Taj? 99. So many people. They dress strangely. 99. Are these people magicians? When they first came here, the girls looked around like curious babies. Levi's had already told Dr. Strange to bring people to Kamar-Taj. Dr. Strange agreed, and also allowed them to learn magic. So it's not surprising that there are a few more people on their side. Okay, darlings, don't look, come with me, I'll take you to arrange the rooms first, and then have a good stroll around Kamar-Taj. Levi's clapped his hands and said to the girls. Dr. Strange arranged for a special person to come and arrange the room, and soon they were put away and saluted. The group then started hanging out in Kamar-Taj. Definitely, he brought Lorna and the others to Kamar-Taj, not to play. Rather, I want them to learn magic. Their super abilities have some shortcomings, and it would be best if they could learn some magic to make up for it. Night is the best time. Levi's used the soundproofing magic he had just learned. Don't try to get any sound out. Vice, I heard that your shock ability is very powerful. I want to try it. Hearing Clarice say she passed out last time, Katrie didn't believe it at all, so she decided to give it a try. Oh? Are you sure? Levi's looked at Skye in surprise. Definitely, come on. It's better to use your ability that can make your arms grow longer. Katie looked at him provocatively. Then don't regret it. Levi smiled mysteriously. His favorite thing was to be provoked. Since he has the two super abilities of vibration and freedom of retraction, he is particularly confident, because no one has been able to survive around. Not even Lorna. A big battle is coming. To Levi's surprise, a quirky little girl actually eavesdropped on the movement in their room. This little girl is Wanda, and no one thought that she would use origin magic power to eavesdrop. Even sound insulation magic was useless. A month passed slowly. Levi's original intention was to let Lorna and Mary learn magic as much as possible, but magic does not seem to be so easy to learn. After Lorna and the others' hard work, they found that they had no ability to learn magic at all. Simply they are too lazy to continue their studies. But Wanda learned a lot of magic. Although she has origin magic power, the most powerful magic in the Marvel Universe, the most powerful magic is also the most difficult to master. In comparison, the magic in Kamar-Taj is much simpler. Let this girl benefit a lot. After a month with Kamar-Taj, Levi's finally took them back to the Mutant Academy. If you want to sign in later, you can open the portal and come back very easily. Chapter 130 Help Logan change history and travel through mistakes. Boom boom boom. Today is the second day after Levi's and Lorna came back. I didn't expect someone to knock on the door early in the morning to disturb the sleep. Some unhappy got up and opened the door, but I didn't expect that it was Wolverine Logan outside the door. Uncle Logan, why are you looking for me so early? Levi's yawned and looked at Wolverine Wolf in confusion. Logan glanced inside the house involuntarily, but apparently didn't see anything. Vice, after hearing them say you already have 5 girlfriends, what I want to say is that you are still young, so you need to be more restrained. 35 Logan raised an eyebrow and teased. Levi's was speechless when he heard it. You don't need to worry about things like Uncle Logan. Don't worry, I'm very good. In Kamar-Taj's month, a large part of why Lorna and the others didn't learn magic was because they couldn't get out of bed every day. although Levi's always thought that they didn't have the ability to learn magic. But it doesn't matter if you can't learn magic, because Levi's has integrated the phoenix fragments into the bodies of several women. In this way, they can also use the power of the phoenix like Jean Grey. Don't look at it as just a phoenix fragment, but it is enough for them to exert the strength of a 4th level mutant. Oh. Is that so? Logan was a little disbelieving, but then fell silent. Levi's is a little weird, not sure what Logan wants to do. Suddenly he seemed to remember something, and slapped his forehead. He finally guessed what Logan was knocking on the door early in the morning, because he promised Logan last time that he would get his memory back after becoming a 5th level mutant, but he didn't expect him to forget it. Uncle Logan, sorry. Please wait for me first. Levi's apologized apologetically, then turned back to his room to get dressed and take a shower. Where are you going, Vice? 39. Lorna dazedly saw him ask suspiciously. Logan is looking for me for something. You guys can continue to rest. Levi's smiled as he looked at the girls lying on the bed. Oh. Lorna went to sleep after hearing the words. Uncle Logan has been waiting for a long time. Let's go. Levi's called Logan out of the door and Raw then walked towards the combat infirmary. Logan wanted to say something more, but seeing that he was already far away, he had no choice but to follow. In the infirmary, Levi's called over Jin, Cyclops, and Storm, and even Professor X, who had been ignoring everything. After hearing what Levi's was going to do next, everyone was in disbelief. Vice, you mean you can go back to the past and change the world? Jean Grey asked in astonishment. Is this joke too big? How is it possible to go back to the past or something? Cyclops shrugged in disbelief. Although it is outrageous, I'm willing to believe it. Storm chose to take his word, even though it sounded outrageous. Logan has been silent, although this kind of thing felt a little weird the last time he heard it, but it was his only hope. No matter how desperate the past was, he wanted to change it. Vice, you are the only one who can help me now. Logan looked at Levi's tightly, his eyes revealing the color of prayer. Don't worry, Uncle Logan. This matter is covered by me. 33. Levi's patted his chest with a self-confident face. Vice, do it if you want. We'll all support you. At this time, Professor X also spoke, and he was also one of the few people who knew Logan's background. It was because he knew that he never told Logan the truth, because the truth is too cruel. It would be good for Logan to forget all the painful experiences of the past. But now is different. If Logan's painful past can be changed, then he definitely agrees. Levi's nodded seriously. In fact, if he wanted to save Logan, he only needed to save the woman who changed his life. That woman is the mutant Silver Fox. This is the woman Logan once loved, even though the woman approached him with a purpose. Since it was the first time to use the super ability of traversal, which was signed from KT, there were too many uncertainties, so he didn't plan to go back with Logan's consciousness. Is Uncle Logan ready? Levi's asked Logan to lie down on the hospital bed with one hand on his shoulder. Well, come on. 9. Logan was also stubborn, and closed his eyes without talking nonsense. To go back to the past, Logan's memory is an opportunity. The human brain is very magical, although his previous memories are damaged. These memories have not disappeared and still exist in his brain. Levi's also closed his eyes, searching for Logan's memory. Soon he finds in Logan's broken memory the scene of Wolverine making a scene on the island where Stryker is located, and he intends to only rescue Silver Fox. Seeking flowers. He does not intend to change other history, otherwise it will cause great changes in the future, which he does not want to see, because he has a concern from beginning to end. That is the legendary Time Administration. There is such an organization in the Marvel world. They manage the operation of countless parallel universe worlds. Any wrong way to interfere in the future or time travel will all be found by them. He didn't know the strength of the Time Administration, so he was afraid. However, according to his understanding, the Time Administration should not be as strong as the Heavenly God Group, and even the Time Administration may only be a subordinate organization of the Heavenly God Group. According to Odin, wearing the destroyer armor can hang a bunch of gods. Maybe the strength of gods is not as strong as he imagined. Thinking of this, he was relieved a lot. 0. Without thinking about it, Levi's directly used the super ability of traversal. The next moment, his body directly turned into an atomic state and entered a colorful space. Is this what it's like to travel through time? How amazing! Without wasting time, he quickly flew towards his destination. I don't know how long has passed. He finally appeared in a real world. What surprised Levi's was that under the dim sky, it should have been a brightly lit city, but the whole city seemed silent, without the slightest lights. The rotten smell around him made him frown. Where the hell is this? Is it a mistake to travel? Levi's frowned and kept looking around, and then his powerful telepathy spread out. In an instant, everything about half of the Earth was in his mind. However, what shocked him was that there were not many living people in most of the Earth. Just when he wanted to continue checking, suddenly two strangely shaped planes flew over in the sky, and then your hatch below the plane was opened, and two rectangular boxes were thrown down. Boom! With the sound of two huge amounts of The 2 iron boxes fell right next to Levi's. What the hell? Levi's frowned and looked at the 2 iron boxes in front of him. The only thing that was certain was that the other party was not a human being or any living being. Under his gaze, I saw 2 iron boxes start shapeshifting. But in the blink of an eye, the 2 iron boxes turned into 2 robots with a height of more than 2 meters. Mountain. Chapter 131 Sentinel. Reversing the future world. Sentinel? Question mark. Levi's looked at the Sentinel in front of him in shock, and the doubts just now came to a guess. Did you come to the parallel world of XMan, reverse the future? However, before he could understand, the 2 Sentinels had already strode forward. Sentinel's arm turned into a sharp turn and stabbed towards his body instantly. Bang bang. When the 2 Sentinels' arms stabbed him, they were instantly bounced out and fell heavily on the ground, and even their arms were stretched a lot. However, it was only Raw's breathing effort, and the 2 Sentinels' arms recovered. Sure enough, it's Sentinel, so to say that he went the wrong way in his traveling this time? He actually came to the parallel universe of reversing the future. Levi's can now be sure that this world is a world that reverses the 530s and turns to the future. After all, in the universe he was in, Dr. Straker, who was studying the Sentry Project, had already been controlled by him, and the Sentry Project also ended without a hitch. Thinking of this, his first thought was to try whether it would be successful to sign in with Professor X and the others in this world. The second thought was to help the world's Professor X clean up Sentinel. Although Sentinel is indeed very perverted, they have a variety of super abilities, and they can also find out the opponent's weakness when it is time to fight against the enemy. But to Levi's, these Sentinels were nothing more than toys. Like now, I saw that he grabbed with one hand, and in an instant, there was a spatial reversal around the 2 Sentinels who rushed over again, but Sentinel did not pay attention to this change. They still rushed over. However, their movements just collided with a reversed space. The next moment, the 2 Sentinels were instantly cut into pieces by the space. Seeing this, Levi's has a third idea. These Sentinel technologies seem to be very good, and maybe they can copy a copy and go back to study. Thinking of this, he is not in a hurry to leave this parallel world. At this time, the 2 aircraft hovering in the sky saw that the 2 Sentinels were destroyed, and opened the hatch again, and this time they were ready to drop 4 Sentinels. Levi's raised his brows, then grabbed one hand towards the sky. Tilde. There was a sound of space reversal like a broken mirror, and in an instant, the space where the plane was located was all reversed. Boom. The 2 planes exploded directly in the sky. Levi's ignored the explosion in the sky and searched telepathically again, this time targeting the surviving Professor X and them. It turned out to be It was easy to find where Professor X and the others were, and then Levi's disappeared. At the same time, it is located in a deep mountain somewhere in the Dragon Country, which is covered by snow. And in this environment, a fighter plane full of futuristic technology landed here. Professor, what happened? Inside the fighter, Storm, Magneto, Iceman and Shadowcat, one after another familiar figures appeared in Professor X's room, facing everyone's doubtful eyes. Professor X kept frowning, and just now he felt an incomparably powerful telepathic force sweeping over here. He didn't know if this was Sentinel's new ability, so he called everyone together. What did you find, Charles? Magneto asked suspiciously. Professor X came back to his senses and said, I felt an incomparably powerful telepathic force swept away just now. I don't know if it is Sentinel's new ability, but there is no doubt that we have been discovered. What? How is this possible? We've already escaped here. Why don't you let us go? When everyone heard Professor X's words, they immediately became excited. They have anger and sadness. Now the whole world has almost no place for them, and they don't know where else they can escape. Magneto sighed when he saw this. Although he didn't want to accept his fate, there was nothing he could do now. An atmosphere of despair hung over the room. It was at this time. Hey, is there anyone in there? 39. The voice entered everyone's brains very clearly, making everyone stunned for a moment. By the way, are we still out there? Iceman asked suspiciously. The plane has just landed, and the doors haven't been opened. There should be no one outside. Storm frowned. But being able to speak, maybe even a human being, Clarice said with hope in her eyes. Come on, there's nothing worse. 39. Professor X found out telepathy could not control the creatures outside at all, so he wasn't sure if it was human, so he could only walk outside in a wheelchair. Seeing this, everyone could only follow behind. At the same time, standing outside the plane, Levi's folded his arms and waited for the door to open. It didn't take long before the door of the plane was opened. When Professor X, Magneto and others saw Levi's, they were stunned for a moment. Humans? Storm asked incredulously. Definitely, as you can see. Levi's shrugged helplessly and smiled. Unbelievable, is it really human? Shadowcat looks handsome like Levi's, who is not human, but it just feels a little unreal. I'm definitely human, and I'm also a mutant, Levi's explained with a smile. Then why are you here? The Burning Man asked suspiciously. Well, this is more complicated to explain. Don't you invite me in? 39. Levi's laughed. Hearing his words, everyone turned to Professor X, waiting for his decision. "Child, I can feel that you have no ill intentions, come in." Although Professor X's telepathy cannot directly read Levi's memory, he can sense that the other party is not malicious, nor is he Sentinel. Although the appearance of the other party was very confusing, Professor X finally chose to believe him. "Thank you, Professor." Levi's looked at Professor X in surprise, but he didn't expect to believe in himself so easily. He thought he was going to explain for a long time here in the ice and snow. Although Storm, Magneto and others are still somewhat skeptical, 4.1 did not object to Professor X's decision. Soon, Levi's was led into a conference room. Here, Clarice poured a glass of water and handed it over. "Clarice, thank you." Levi's thanked him, then looked at Clarice in front of him with interest. Perhaps because of the different parallel worlds, the Clarices on both sides look a little different. The Clarice in front of her looks very similar to Bing. In the same situation, there are Shadowcat and Colossus. On the contrary, Professor X and Magneto and Wolverine and Storm have not changed. Clarice was a little surprised to hear his familiar name called out. "How did you know my name?" Everyone was also a little suspicious. Chapter 132 Battle Sentinel, the stunned crowd. Levi's looked at everyone and smiled. "I know not only you, but also Professor X, Magneto, Wolverine." Hearing that he called out the names of most people accurately, everyone was even more puzzled. "Son, where did you come from?" Professor X asked. Everyone's eyes were fixed on him, waiting for his answer. "Well, to talk about my origin, we must first talk about your ability, Katie," Levi said and looked at Shadowcat. "Me?" Shadowcat pointed to himself suspiciously, with an unsure look. "Yes, your ability allows you to send other people's consciousness back to the past, thereby changing history, and you have saved everyone many times with this ability." Levi's remembers watching Back to the Future. At first Iceman and the others were killed by Sentinel, but then Iceman reappeared. At that time, he looked a little confused, but now that he thinks about it, it should be that Shadowcat used ability to send people back to the past and change the future. This is also the way to send Wolverine back to the future. It can be said that without Shadowcat, the X-Men have been discovered and destroyed by Sentinel countless times. "How did you know about this?" Shadowcat frowned. "Definitely no, because I also have this ability," Levi said, using traveling directly to let his arm travel back and forth on the table. "And then?" Magneto spoke up. "I remember that I was in the Mutant Academy before, and then I wanted to use this ability to help Uncle Logan change your past, but I don't know why it appeared here." Levi's explained half-truths. Logan frowned when he heard this. "You mean the Mutant Academy?" "That was a long time ago. Since the appearance of Sentinel, almost all human beings in the world have been wiped out in just a few decades. Where is there any Mutant Academy now?" "I also feel very strange, but I guess I should have entered another parallel world." "Because what you did over there, Magneto, on the Statue of New York is just over, but it's already an apocalyptic scene here. And you don't know me, so I guess there must be another parallel world on your side. Only 22 pairs." Levi's rubbed his chin and guessed solemnly. Everyone was shocked when they heard what he said. "Son, is the telepathic power that swept past you just now?" Professor X asked. Levi's nodded. "Yes, I was startled when I found out that there were few people in the whole world." Hearing this, Professor X suddenly believed his words. After all, he possesses such a powerful telepathy ability. If it is a mutant of this world, then he should have discovered it long ago, and it is impossible to wait until now. "Charles, you believed him?" Magneto frowned. Professor X nodded. "Professor, my name is Levi's, and I'm also your student." Levi's introduced himself with a smile. "This student Vice has a powerful telepathy ability. If he is a mutant of this world, I should have discovered it right away," Magneto explained to everyone with a smile. "People also think it makes sense." "But," at this time Shadowcat said with a tangled face, "but, my ability can't make the body go back to the past." 35. The question puzzled her a bit. Now she can only make people's consciousness go back to the past, and those who go back to the past will suffer great pain. She never thought about returning her body to the past. That's almost impossible to do. You only need to raise your ability to the level of a 5th level mutant," Levi said with a relaxed smile. "Level 5 mutants?" Hearing his words, everyone couldn't help but startled raw. "You must know that except for the Phoenix Girl of the Year, they have never seen a 5th level mutant." "That's right, it's the 5th level mutant. The 4th level mutant can't do it. Only the 5th level mutant can do it," Levi's explained with great certainty. When everyone heard the words, they looked at each other in dismay, not knowing what to say. "So, you're a level 5 mutant?" Magneto asked suspiciously. "Definitely." 35. Levi's nodded without hesitation. Everyone's eyes lit up when they heard the words, and they seemed to see the hope of saving the world. The power of the 5th level mutants. Many of them said that they had experienced it personally, and that was the Phoenix Girl. With that kind of power, there is absolutely no problem against Sentinel. Thinking of this, everyone was excited. "Mr. Vice." Storm couldn't help but want to say something excitedly. "Mr. Olo, just call me. I'm your student too." Levi's laughed. Storm calmed down a bit after hearing the words. What I want to say is, can you help us and save the world? When everyone heard her words, they all looked at him nervously. Save the world? I still don't know what's going on in this world. Can you tell me? Levi's pretended to be puzzled. Definitely. Let me tell you what happened in this world. Storm nodded excitedly, then began to tell. About 50 years ago, as Levi's knew, Dr. Strucker started the Sentinel project. This is a weapon specially developed for mutants. Until Sentinel suddenly came out, at the very beginning, a large number of mutants were killed by Sentinel. Then all the mutants went into hiding. However, while the mutants were hiding, Sentinel did not stop killing. They put the target on the human body, because every human body has the X gene. Sentinel's power is far beyond the imagination of the Superman class. In just a few short years, almost all the human beings in the entire world were killed. After listening to Storm's narration, Levi's rubbed his chin and thought, except that the time was different from what he understood, everything else was the same. But this is a parallel world after all, and some differences are understandable. The meeting room was very quiet, and everyone recalled the past. Katie, please pour me a glass of red wine. Thank you. Levi's voice broke the silence of everyone. Oh, Shadowcat froze for a moment, then took the glass and turned around to get a glass of red wine. Give. 35. Thank you. 35. Levi's took the wine, and then thanked him. Can I ask you a question? Shadowcat said hesitantly. What's the problem? Say it. Levi said, drinking red wine. The world you were in was a parallel world, so on your side, what is the relationship between me and you? Shadowcat always felt that Levi's knew her very well, and was not polite at all. It was completely like a couple's behavior, which made her very curious. Oh. Well, sorry, because you are my girlfriend over there, so I subconsciously. Levi's explained a little embarrassedly. It does not matter. Shadowcat shook his head a little embarrassedly, and finally understood the previous doubts in his heart. At the same time, he is also envious of himself over there, having a 5th-level mutant as his boyfriend. I want to ask, what about me? Shadowcat's boyfriend Colossus asked uncomfortably. You? Colossus? Looks like your confession was rejected. Levi's shrugged. Colossus was speechless when he heard the words. After all, the farewell was really bad, and being rejected in another world is definitely a matter of course. What about me? Clarice asked curiously. Clarice, you are my girlfriend too, Levi said with a smile. Why do you have 2 girlfriends? Clarice asked curiously. No way. Who made me handsome and strong? Levi's shrugged. It's not surprising that the development of the 2 worlds is different. Just like Vice, you appeared over there. Professor X smiled and said, Vice, can I ask you to help us? It's definitely. Levi's nodded without hesitation. Although the 2 worlds are different, you are still you, Professor. Now this world has been destroyed by Sentinel, and I help as a member of the X-Men. You should too. Everyone was happy to hear what he said. God knows how long it has been since they were happy like this. Vice, my thought is that since you have the ability to go back in time, can you go back to the time when Raven killed Stryker and stop her? What Professor X meant, he definitely understood. But is it really good to meddle in the history of their world like this? Maybe Shadowcat should still come? Originally Levi's meant to help them resist Sentinel, and it was still up to Shadowcat and Wolverine to change the past. Vice, I can only rely on you for this matter. This is the only way to save the world, Professor X said with a pleading look in his eyes. The relationship between Professor X and Mystique has always been unclear, but there is no doubt that the relationship between the two is very good. So he took to himself. What didn't stop Mystique from killing Stryker in the first place? The whole world is destroyed because of him. This made Professor X suffer all the time. Levi's frowned. Suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something, and his brows suddenly stretched. Okay, I promise you. Really? When everyone saw his promise, they were a little surprised. I don't know if I should interfere with the history of your world, but since you have said so, Professor X, I will try my best to help you, Levi said with a serious look. Great. Thank you. 35. Tears appeared in Professor X's moved eyes. Then it's not too late, let's get started. Storm on the side was a little anxious. However, Levi smiled and shook his head. Before changing history, I think it's better to deal with the guys outside first. Outside? Hearing this, everyone was stunned. No, Sentinel came here. 35. Professor X could notice that more than a dozen large transport planes flew over not far from them. You don't have to think about it to know it must be Sentinel. Damn, how did they come so fast? 35. When everyone heard Sentinel approaching, their expressions changed greatly, because in previous battles, every time they were approached by Sentinel, it ended with their death. If it weren't for Shadowcat's ability, I'm afraid they would have died thousands of times. Vice, act quickly. As long as you can change history, it doesn't matter even if we all die, Professor X said seriously. Yes, we will buy you time. Logan stretched out his clenched fists and said fearlessly. However, Levi's shook his head again. No, I won't let you die. Leave these Sentinels to me. 5. Everyone frowned when they heard his words. However, at this time, Levi's had already walked out. Unfortunately, everyone could only follow behind him. The crowd came outside the fighter plane. There was a lot of fog in the dark night, and there were only faint lights in the sky. It's the plane that Sentinel was on. There are 12 in total, Storm reported to everyone. They did come here. Magneto frowned. Can we really deal with so many Sentinels? 39. Shadowcat's complexion turned pale. Don't worry, with me here, Sentinel won't pose any threat to us. I forgot to tell you, I'll have dealt with 2 ships when I come here again. Levis looked back and smiled lightly. Everyone was relieved to see him so relaxed. Just in this moment, Sentinel's transport plane is also getting closer. Vice, what are you going to do with these Sentinels? Shadowcat suddenly thought of a very serious question, that is, how should Levis use the ability of traversal? For now, she can only use this ability to pass through walls or return her consciousness to the past. But attacking ability is not much. 533. Shadowcat is a little unsure what attack she will develop if she becomes a level 5 mutant. Don't worry about this, because there are so many abilities, I have to think about which ability to use. Levis folded his arms and touched his chin, thinking. When everyone heard the words, they looked at each other in dismay. Too many abilities? Is it true or false? Mutants with multiple abilities are rare, and they are still level 5 mutants with multiple abilities. But now they can only trust Levis. Yes, it is more convenient to use this ability. Levis snapped his fingers, and the next moment thousands of white lights appeared above his head. Atomic collapse. This trick is more convenient to use and does not require hands at all. What is this ability? The people behind them were a little puzzled when they saw these white light groups. Although I don't know what it is, it looks very dangerous. With the wolf's intuition, Logan found that these white light groups were a great threat to him. This is really incredible. While others heard this, they were also a little surprised. They knew about Wolverine's healing ability. There is even a threat to Wolverine, which shows how dangerous this white light group is. Immediately afterwards, a scene that made them unforgettable in their entire lives appeared, when thousands of light groups in the sky instantly shot out countless white beams of light. The whole sky seemed to be illuminated by white light. Thousands of light clusters shoot out atomic collapse rays at the same time. This scene is really shocking. I saw that Sentinel's transport plane was pierced by countless rays of light before it approached. Boom. In an instant, countless sparks erupted in the sky. Some Sentinels tried to fly out of the plane, but the Sentinels that flew out were directly targeted. After the atomic collapse was counted, Sentinel instantly turned into a pile of wreckage. This is too scary. Shadowcat's eyes widened in disbelief. It was very difficult for them to destroy a Sentinel before, but at this moment they became a living target. As long as they dare to fly out of the wreckage of the plane explosion, they will be destroyed by several atomic collapse rays. This scene simply shocked everyone. Is this the power of a 5th level mutant? Too strong. Iceman and Burning Man looked a little excited. All the Sentinels were destroyed in just a moment before everyone watched. Only one of the 12 transport planes remained, and this one is specially left behind by Levis. Using electromagnetic force, the transport plane was caught in an instant. Immediately afterwards, Levis took out the phone, and the projection of Sister Misako appeared in the air. Master, what's the matter? Misako asked suspiciously. Give me to invade Sentinel's network and download some technical data. By the way, I wonder if you can control Sentinel's master brain. Levi's whim. Sentinel is just a program. Chapter 133. The Black Phoenix of the Parallel World. As long as he can invade and control this program, can't all Sentinels be able to be used by him? Answer the master. Misako's server is not here, so it is impossible to do high-intensity calculations, Misako replied. Forward. Levis didn't expect this. Miss Misako's host is still in the basement of the Mutant Academy. Forget it, you can download some technical data directly. Anyway, these Sentinels can't be brought back, and they will disappear after changing history. It doesn't matter if they are controlled or not. Misako is downloading technical data, Misako replied. Levis nodded in satisfaction. Vice, are you? At this time, Professor X and the others also came. I found that the technology in your world is ahead of ours, so I plan to record it. Don't worry, it won't take long. 99. Levis didn't hide it, but said it out loud. Huh? Professor, should we also get some technology? After the history is changed, maybe. The fireman did not continue because he remembered that if history were changed, they would not seem to remember what happened now. Ha ha ha. Do you still have to worry about running out of money? Levis laughed and interrupted everyone's silence. Although I don't know where Professor X's money came from, it seems that Professor X has never been short of money. In such a big school, there are still so many students who do not charge tuition fees, and there are high-tech fighter jets and XMan uniforms and so on. So where did Professor X's money come from? Levis was also a little curious. However, curiosity returned to curiosity, and he did not forget his own business. Ding. Did the host sign into Professor X Charles? Double experience or super ability? Sign into super ability. Ding. Sign in successfully. Congratulations to the host for gaining 200 experience points. Hearing the system's prompts, Levis was mixed. Surprisingly, Signing in this parallel world was indeed successful, but what made him a little helpless was that he could only get double the experience. After all, he already has the ability of telepathy. But anyway, in this world, you can also sign in to gain experience points. Soon half an hour passed. 2. The Master Misaka has downloaded all the scientific research data, Misaka reported. When Levis, who was chatting with Professor X and the others, heard Misaka's voice, his spirits were suddenly lifted. With these data, the progress of his Sky battleship can also be accelerated. Thinking of this, he was in a good mood. Professor, it's not too late, I'm ready to start. Vice, let's go, everything is up to you. Professor X looked at him with hopeful eyes. Not only Professor X, but everyone's eyes are full of hope, hoping that the world will return to the world they are familiar with. Don't worry, leave it to me. Levis didn't talk nonsense. The next moment he used traveling, he had disappeared in front of everyone. Experienced the time travel again. This time Levi seemed much calmer. I don't know how long has passed. A ray of light flashed before his eyes, and then he appeared on a bustling street. The crowd was surging around, and no one seemed to notice his sudden appearance. This is New York. Levi's was relatively familiar with New York, and he didn't think much about it. This time, his only task was to make Mystique give up the idea of assassinating Stryker. He is not Professor X, so his method is very crude, just use telepathy to change her mind. In an instant, a huge telepathy instantly enveloped the whole world. After a while, Levi's found Mystique's location and directly used telepathy to change her mind. After doing all this, he was not in a hurry to go back. Now that history has been changed, he obviously can't go back to the timeline when he killed Sentinel. It can be said that changing history is equivalent to obliterating another future. But he didn't care about this matter, and then he used traveling again. And this time, it was time to travel to the future when the Phoenix Girl became the Dark Phoenix. That's right, his ultimate purpose is to absorb the Phoenix power of this parallel world. The Black Phoenix. Why would he risk helping the Professor X of this world? Obviously they themselves can do it to change history. But Levi's did it anyway, and the reason was the power of the Phoenix. In Odin's heyday, he was able to beat the Celestials with the Destroyer armor. Perhaps his current strength is no match for the armored Odin. But as long as he absorbs part of the power of the Phoenix again, even Odin, who was wearing the armor of the Destroyer in his heyday, would not take it seriously. That's why he took the risk. Soon, Levi's has come to the timeline of the X-Men vs. Dark Phoenix. He appeared when the Dark Phoenix was about to be stabbed to death by Wolverine. Because he has never appeared in front of everyone, the X-Men during this time period did not know him. Everyone was completely unclear as to what this sudden appearance was going to do. Levi's didn't talk nonsense. He just waved one hand, and Wolverine was thrown out in an instant. Seeing this, the Dark Phoenix, who had been suppressed by Jean Grey, once again took the dominant position. Who the hell are you, Tilda? Dark Phoenix could feel that a human in front of him had the same power as her. Who am I? That's a very good question. The corners of Levi's mouth twitched slightly, then he waved one hand, and a Phoenix figure appeared beside him. Phoenix, come back, we are one. The Phoenix stretched out his hand to the Black Phoenix. You are also a Phoenix. This is impossible. Dark Phoenix couldn't believe it, and another self appeared. Not only did she not believe it, but even the X-Men couldn't believe that the man who suddenly appeared in front of him actually possessed the power of the Phoenix. This suddenly gave them a headache. One Phoenix is difficult to solve, and another Phoenix is not enough to destroy the whole world. Nothing is impossible. We are both the most powerful and ancient forces in the universe. The Black Phoenix. But it was a pity that it was attacked later, and all the forces were scattered in various multi-worlds. Now it is time for us to reunite, Phoenix still said in a hurry. Hearing this, the Black Phoenix still didn't believe it, and this was normal. After all, no one would believe that he was only a part of other people. You said that we were originally one? Then why don't you take the initiative to become my part? In this way, we can also become a stronger existence again. Dark Phoenix said with an impassioned look on the platform with both hands. Unexpectedly, the Dark Phoenix turned out to be a guest-oriented, and wanted his Phoenix power to take the initiative to send it to her. Hearing this, Levi's almost laughed angrily. Phoenix, it seems we can't convince her anymore. Then use your strength to make her surrender. The Phoenix flew into the sky as he spoke, transforming into a huge amount of flame Phoenix. Tweet. A screeching sound resounded through the heavens and the earth. This was the biggest challenge to the Black Phoenix. I saw the Black Phoenix also flew into the sky, releasing a lot of Phoenix power and flame Phoenix from the whole body. However, the Dark Phoenix in Jean Grey's body is destined to not be able to exert its full strength. On the other hand, Levi's is different. Because of absorbing the power of the Phoenix in Mephito's hands, the Flame Phoenix is far stronger than the Dark Phoenix. The next moment, the Phoenix powers of both sides collided. As predicted, the Flame Phoenix directly devoured the Phoenix power of the Black Phoenix in a crushing posture. Dark Phoenix wanted to escape, but it was useless. In just a moment, the Phoenix force in Kung Fu King Grey's body was completely absorbed. The Flame Phoenix entered Levi's body again. Boom. The powerful Phoenix power escaped from his body, and everything around was destroyed to form a large pit with a range of 1 kilometer. It took him a long time to recover the power of the Phoenix. I didn't expect the improvement this time to be so huge. Feeling the huge Phoenix power in his body, Levi's eyes showed excitement. Obviously he made the right bet this time. After absorbing the power of the Phoenix in this parallel world, his strength has increased terribly. I'm afraid that Odin's heyday was not necessarily his opponent. Definitely, this is just a feeling. After all, he has never seen the strength of Odin in his heyday. But this is enough to make him not afraid of the legendary god group. Looking at the surrounding human beings, Levi's did not stay here any longer, and now it is time to go back. With a thought, his figure instantly disappeared in front of everyone. At the same time, in some empty white space, it is like an office worker. Everyone is sitting in front of a computer and busy. This is the time and space administration. Each worker manages one or more universes in the multi-universe, and whenever an anomaly occurs in that universe, their ideas will be aroused. Drop drop drop. Suddenly one of the staff's computer remembered the sound of Diddy. The staff member's complexion suddenly changed greatly, and after some manipulations, he finally found the change in the universe he managed. Then he hurriedly reported the matter to his superiors. Number 09527, let me ask you, what force or person caused the mutation in your world? The superior asked with a serious expression. The staff member named 09527 had cold sweat on his face and said, I discovered the power of the Phoenix at the source of the mutation. What? The power of the Phoenix? Are you sure? The superior asked with a frown. I'm sure. 35. Number 09527 hurriedly nodded and replied. Okay, go back first. The superior waved his hand, then turned and left. The upper management quickly contacted other managers to discuss the matter. The world number 09527 has a mutation? Do you need to send someone to arrest the person who caused the mutation? I think it's better to restore the mutant world first. It is said that the person who caused the historical mutation controlled the power of the Phoenix. It's actually the power of the Phoenix. What should I do now? The high-level personnel of the Time and Space Administration were talking a lot, but they couldn't make up their minds. Quiet, said the person sitting in the first place. Everyone fell silent for a while. Let's put this matter on hold for the time being. The person with the power of the Phoenix is not something we can solve. We must report it. Everyone nodded when they heard the words. At present, there is only this way. After all, it is the power of the Phoenix, and the ability of the Time Administration cannot handle it at all. When Levi's reappeared, he was back in the infirmary of the Mutant Academy. Vice, how are you back? Seeing his sudden appearance, everyone, Professor X and Logan, couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. God knows how worried they are. After all, this ability of Levi's is also used for the first time. If there is any accident, they will be blamed. Huh? You haven't left yet? Levi's looked at everyone in surprise. By the way, how long have I been away? Less than 10 minutes. 35 Storm replied. 10 minutes? Levi's was stunned for a while. Although he didn't stay in the future world for a long time, he still had a day. I didn't expect it to take less than 10 minutes. Vice, have you succeeded? Now that he has returned safely, this is what Logan is most concerned about. Don't worry Logan, Vice has just returned. Cyclops on the side couldn't stand it any longer. After all, it was a bit bad for the talent to ask this question before he could catch his breath. It's okay. Levi smiled and waved his hand, then looked at Logan and said, it's a pity that this time did not change your future, Uncle Logan. What? Logan couldn't help clenching his fists when he heard this. He didn't expect that he still failed, and he felt a little unwilling. Uncle Logan, don't worry, listen to me slowly tell everyone what happened this time. Levi's was a little helpless, so he had to start talking about his experience in this parallel world. Definitely, he only talked about the first half, and didn't say the second half. However, Rao was so, everyone was stunned. No one expected such a terrible thing to happen in a parallel world. Vice, you're right, it seems that we can't be too comfortable, otherwise, the parallel world will be the fate of our mutants, Cyclops said with a serious face. Yes, if the mutants can't progress, they will die sooner or later. Storm also nodded in agreement. For a time, everyone's faces became solemn. Seeing this, Levi's was speechless again. I said, there is no need for you to be so pessimistic. As long as I am here, nothing like that will happen. Don't forget that I have the power to change the world. 95. Yes, it is our greatest luck to have Vice. Professor X nodded with a smile, and couldn't help but sigh that bringing Vice back was the most correct decision in his life. Well, we should trust. Storm nodded too. Uncle Logan, don't worry, it's inevitable that there will be an accident when you use this, Lihao, ability for the first time, but don't worry, I will never make a mistake next time. Levi's patted Logan's shoulder comfortingly. I always believed in you. Logan was also moved in his heart. Ha ha tilde Uncle Logan. Don't worry, you will definitely bring the woman you like back to you safely. Levi's has always regarded everyone in the X-Men as his family in the Marvel world, So helping everyone is also in his view a woman I like? Logan's face was full of question marks. You don't have to worry about that. He didn't explain anything. Everyone just wait for my good news. After speaking, Levi's disappeared in front of everyone again, and this time he didn't go the wrong timeline. After successfully returning to the end of the Wolverine 1 plot, Levi's directly rescued the just dead Silver Fox. In order not to change the history too much, he froze Silver Fox directly after saving it, and then used the power of the Phoenix to ensure that it would not die. Finally buried Silver Fox deep in the ground. After all this was done, Levi's was back the next moment. It came back faster this time. The people who were still waiting in the infirmary found him the moment he came back. How? Did it work? Storm asked suspiciously. Everyone also looked at him, waiting for his answer. Yeah, it's done. Levi's nodded with a smile. Did it work? But I don't feel any change. Logan was a little puzzled, trying to recall, but there was no useful memory. In his opinion, if history is successfully changed, then his memory should be changed. It's not so much that I changed history, it's better that I deceived history. Levi's smiled and explained, you know what? The most painful thing in your life is to see your beloved woman die in front of your own eyes. And you have lost your memory. 5. Now I'm back with the woman you love. Having said that, he placed a finger on Logan's forehead. Chapter 134. The twin sisters are really moist. First meeting Deadpool. In an instant, all the memories of Logan were transmitted to his mind. The huge memory made Logan a little bit painful, but it was his own experience that made him even more painful. He killed his own father, turned against his brother, and his beloved woman was killed by his brother, betrayed by a woman, and injected into adamantium alloy. All of this made him extremely miserable. Logan seemed to have experienced a change himself again, and it was only when he recovered that he found that his whole body was soaked with sweat. At the same time, Levi's also went back to where Silver Fox was frozen and brought her back. Because of the protection of the power of the Phoenix, even if it was frozen for decades, it did not suffer any harm. Logan. After sobering up, Silver Fox rushed to Logan's side. Hearing this familiar voice, Logan finally came back to his senses, and he looked at Silver Fox in disbelief. The next moment the two hugged tightly. Levi's pouted at this, and then left the infirmary. He was too lazy to eat dog food. Wouldn't it be nice to go back to sleep with Clarice in my arms if you have time? At this time, Professor X also came out of the infirmary. Vice, thank you. Professor, what are you thanking me for? Levi's looked at Professor X in surprise. No, I should thank you. If it weren't for you, Logan wouldn't have solved this knot. Professor X said with a smile. Levi's waved his hand without caring. I have no relatives and no reason in this world, and the professor brought me back, so I will treat everyone as family. Hearing this, Professor X couldn't help showing a relieved smile. Cyclops, Storm and Jean behind him would also smile. By the way, you should go to class today. Storm suddenly stepped forward and said, Do I still have class? Levi's was speechless. He was ready to go to sleep and fall asleep. After a few days as a good boy at the academy, Levi's finally couldn't help sneaking out. The technical data of Sentinel collected before has all been stored in Misaka's mainframe, and Misaka will use these technologies to calculate and build a sky battleship. So he doesn't have to worry about it at all. When he had nothing to do, he suddenly remembered that he had promised to help Dr. Ethan to save his family. He is a person who attaches great importance to promises, and since he has promised things, he must do them. So today, Levi's brought Dr. Ethan's wife and children to the XGen underground research base. Master, you are here. The first to find out that he came is still Marv and Phoebe, but this time there is one more person, that is Sayuri, Death Girl. Previously, Sayuri kept calling him Master because of his mishandling, which made him very embarrassed, especially in front of acquaintances. So Levi's brought her here as a guard for the research base. Yeah. Levi's nodded with a smile. Master, is this your wife and children? Sophie asked suspiciously when she saw the two behind him. Boom. 35. Levi's directly gave the naughty Mafia a shudder, and Sophie suddenly hugged her head and snorted raw. What are you talking about? They are Dr. Ethan's family. Go and call Dr. Ethan over here. Levi's said angrily. Oh. Sophie stuck out her tongue mischievously, then turned to call for someone. Soon, Dr. Zen was called over. Originally, the research was interrupted at a very critical position, and Dr. Zen was very angry. But when he saw the two people next to Levi's, he couldn't think of any more research. Dr. Ethan, according to the agreement, I have already brought your wife and children back. Neon. Levi's patted his shoulder and smiled. Thank you, Mr. Vice. 35. Dr. Zen wept with joy. He couldn't imagine that one day he would see his wife and children again. It almost made him feel like he was dreaming. Have a good time with your family. Levi's smiled, then turned to leave. Sophie and Phoebe and Sayuri follow. Master. Marv suddenly took his hand and acted coquettishly. Levi's said helplessly, Marv, if you have something to say, just say it. Master, you haven't seen Celeste, Esm and Tracy McCready for a long time, and they all miss you, Master. 5. Sophie said with a pitiful look on her face. Hearing this, Levi's was stunned for a moment, because he realized that he did seem to have neglected the three sisters Celeste, Ism, and Tracy McCready. All along, he ran to the underground research base more often, and the three sisters Celeste, Ism and Tracy McCready have not been there for so long. Thinking of this, he said with some guilt, "I'm sorry. I ignored you all. I'll go see them now." Wait, it's the same with the master to accompany us first. Marv also has her own thoughts. Ah. That's fine. Levi's had no choice but to agree. Hey, Sophie. Didn't you say let me play with you for a while? What does XMan mean by pulling me into the room? 39. Yeah, it's the same in the room, Marv said with a simple smile. Levi's believed it, but he soon stopped thinking so. Hey, Sophie, why do you have to lie down to chat with you? Is this more convenient, or do you like to sit on the sofa? Marv asked suspiciously. 2 days later, Levi's finally set off for Mexico. Welcome Master. In the mansion distributed by Hellfire, Riwa and the three Cuckoo sisters Celeste, Ism and Tracy met him together. Don't be so polite, tell me about the latest situation. 39. When he came to Riwa's office, Levi's was unceremoniously lying on the president's chair. It's like this, because the company has a stake in Stark Industries, so recently, Celeste, the eldest sister of the Cuckoo sisters, began to introduce everything about the company recently. Because of the management of the shares of Stark Industries, their own business has also been greatly developed. It can be said that the situation in the company is very good. After listening to Celeste's introduction, Levi's nodded with satisfaction, and it was indeed the right decision to hand over the shares of Stark Industries to them. By the way, Master, I have one more thing to say, Ism said suddenly. Huh? Let's talk about anything. Levi pursed his lips for her to speak quickly. It's like this. There were a series of car accidents on the street a few days ago, and there were mutants among them, Ism said, turning on the computer on the side and calling up the screen. I saw a man in a red tights with 2 swords on his back. Deadpool. Levi's looked at the guy in the red tights in surprise. If I'm not mistaken, this guy is Deadpool. Wade Wilson. Ism continued, based on our investigation, this guy was hunting down a man named Francis, and Francis was secretly studying mutants, and I guess this mutant was born because of this. Levi's looked at Wade with interest. This guy owns the regenerative healing factor. Even if he was shot countless bullets or his heart was poached, he could recover. This ability is indeed very perverted. But Levi's doesn't need this level of regenerative healing factor. He has already merged with the power of the Phoenix, and ordinary attacks are useless to him at all. Even if he is killed, he can be reborn from the ashes. It is much smarter than the regenerative healing factor of Wade. Still, Levi's plans to meet the guy because this guy did not normally awaken the X gene to become a mutant, but awakened under the stimulation of artificial technology. This almost coincides with the X gene underground research base built by Levi's. Perhaps the other party's research data and technology can speed up his research. Ism, I want to meet this guy. It's the master. I'll go catch him right now. Ism promised to turn around and was ready to send someone to catch Deadpool. Wait. Levi's looked at him speechlessly. Is there anything else, Master? Ism turned around and asked suspiciously. I mean, tell me where this guy is, and I'll go find him myself. Levi's explained helplessly. Is that so? Ism walked back a little embarrassedly, and then operated on the computer, and soon a target was displayed on the computer. According to our surveillance, that mutant is currently at this location, Ism said, pointing to the map. Very good. Then Ism, come with me. With that said, Levi's stood up from the chair, and then hugged Ism who was beside him. The next moment, the two just disappeared into the office. Seeing them leave, Celeste, the eldest sister, couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. God, I thought the master would blame Ism just now. I didn't expect to take her out alone now. 5. I was also shocked, but I believe that the master will not punish us. McCready envied Ism. Marv and Phoebe have completely become masters, and we can't be left behind. Remember our plan at night? Celeste whispered. Definitely remember. McCready nodded vigorously and licked his lips with his tongue. At the same time, accompanied by melodious music, on an overpass, a strange man in red and black tights with 2 knives on his back is shaking his calf to the music, holding a crayon and scribbling on a piece of white paper. Hi, I'm stupid Francis. Accept Deadpool's punishment, Francis, you bitch. Looking at the completed Q version of Deadpool's picture of Francis killing Francis, Deadpool was very interested in dubbing it. Deadpool, who was entertaining himself, suddenly stopped the movements of his hands, and then shouted to himself, hey, it's shocking, right? A marginal person like me has the opportunity to appear. The answer is very simple. I have traded. Please don't doubt it, because even if you imagine the kind of trade, it was a wonderful night. You must have never seen Deadpool in women's clothing. After speaking, he made an international XO gesture at the end. And at the moment, Levi's and Ism were standing not far away, watching Deadpool talking to himself, speechless. As expected, this guy was the same as he remembered, a rude talker. However, the sign-in still has to be signed, and the number of sign-ins today has not been used yet. Ding. Does the host sign in to Deadpool Wade Wilson? Double experience or super ability? Sign in for double experience points. Ding. Sign in successfully. Congratulations to the host for gaining 200 experience points. Levi's directly signed in for double experience points, and he had absolutely no interest in Deadpool's super ability. At the same time, after a while, Deadpool, who had been talking to himself, found that the person he was waiting for had finally arrived. Hey, the bad guys are finally here, so it's time for superhero Deadpool. Deadpool said and jumped off the overpass. Boom. With a window of a car in the middle shattered, Deadpool accurately entered the car. Perfect shot. Little Deadpool is going to be in trouble here. With that said, Deadpool raised his foot and kicked the person behind him straight out of the car. When the other people in the car saw this, they naturally wouldn't let go and watch. Except for the one who was driving, all the others rushed over and scuffled with Deadpool. However, Deadpool, who is proficient in martial arts, is not so easy to deal with, not to mention that he can completely ignore the pain and hit the enemy's key points. Even while dealing with these big men, he even took out the Q map he just drew. I'm looking for Francis. You've seen this guy? Bang. Before he could finish speaking, Deadpool was grabbed by the head next to him and slammed hard on the speaker. Levi's, who saw this scene, couldn't help laughing out loud. This guy is so funny. Soon Deadpool took care of everyone in the car. But Francis's people were more than that. I saw several other cars also surrounded, and a group of big men got out of the car with various firearms. Deadpool hurriedly hid behind the car. Hey Tilda, aren't you wondering why I'm wearing a red tights? Deadpool, who was hiding behind the car, suddenly exposed his head. However, it was several bullets that responded to him. Deadpool, who was almost shot in the head, was not timid. Seeing that there was no gunshot, he raised his hand and said again, because the bad guys can't see me bleeding. How? It's funny. But apparently no one was amused. Da. Countless bullets responded to him. Well, it seems that the negotiation failed. Let's hurt each other. I only have 12 bullets here. Guess how many of you will be shot? Before he finished speaking, Deadpool had already turned over from the back of the car. He killed the two of them with 2 shots, and then rolled to the side. Deadpool's super ability can give him the regenerative healing factor, but the strengthening of his physical strength is negligible, and at most it is a little stronger than ordinary people. But Deadpool was a powerful mercenary before he became a mutant. With the undying ability, it's no problem to deal with these Francis thugs. In just a few moments, Deadpool had taken down 12 thugs. Only Francis was left. However, Deadpool couldn't find Francis after searching for a long time. Hey, Francis, where the hell are you, you son of a bitch? The mouth continued to mumble while looking for Deadpool. At this time, the sound of a motorcycle suddenly sounded, and a man with a helmet who couldn't see his face clearly got on the motorcycle and was about to escape. Little bitch, so you're here? Such a disguise would definitely not deceive Deadpool, and he sneered and drew the long knife behind his back and threw it out. Boom. The long knife just got stuck in the wheel of the motorcycle, and the man threw it off the motorcycle due to inertial force. Where do you want to go, bitch? Francis? Come on, let's play. Deadpool said it went up and kicked Francis' helmet directly, followed by a left hook and a right hook, throwing it out. Then he took out the long knife and stabbed Francis directly in the shoulder, nailing it to the wall. The last angry kick directly kicked Francis' helmet into the air. Tilda Francis, the combo just now was not bad. Is there anything else you want to say now? 99. Who are you? Until now Francis still didn't understand who the madman in front of him was and why he attacked them. Damn, you forgot who I am? Then let me show you. 35. As Deadpool said, he took off half of his hood, revealing the lower half of his face. Francis saw the terrifying face in the lower half of his face, where he still didn't know who the other party was. So it's you, Wade Wilson, meet the handsome guy again. Francis sneered. Yeah, we met again. I often sigh about the unfairness of God. Obviously they were all bitten. The guy next door was bitten by little Spider-Man and still looks handsome, but I was bitten by a sharp. Hey, who am I to hold accountable for this? After Deadpool put on his hood again, he said in a cold voice. Chapter 135. Mr. Hyde, looking for vibe. Female Skye. You should thank me. I made you immortal. To be honest, I am very envious. Francis looked envious, knowing that it was the ability of immortality, which many people could not envy. Okay, I admit that this ability is good. But how can you make me look like this face? Tell me how to get rid of this disgusting scar? Deadpool roared as he grabbed Francis' clothes. Just then, a voice suddenly appeared beside him. Maybe I can help you. Hearing this unfamiliar voice, Deadpool subconsciously punched out. Immediately afterwards, however, his entire body was ejected and hit a car beside him. I said ... It's not a good habit to do it casually. Levi's almost laughed. Damn, my little right, what's wrong with you, my concubine? Deadpool got up from the ground and cried bitterly while holding his broken right hand, making people speechless. I think we can talk. Go talk to Nema. Deadpool suddenly kicked Levi's neck. Levi's expression remained unchanged and he raised his hand to block it, then grabbed Deadpool's feet with his backhand and threw it into the sky. Immediately afterwards, a portal appeared in the sky, and after passing through the portal, Deadpool actually appeared in a free fall at an altitude of 10,000 meters. Mom hurry up and save me, I'm going to fall to my death. Not even in the free fall, not even the strong wind that poured into his mouth could stop Deadpool's mouth. This left Levi's speechless. The next moment, a portal appeared below Deadpool, and in an instant he returned to the ground. Now we can have a good talk, Levi's asked with a half smile. Well, I think we do need to have a good talk. Deadpool, who was lying on the ground and hadn't caught his breath, finally became less stubborn. By the way, I forgot to tell you, just now Francis has escaped. Levi squatted in front of Deadpool and smiled. What? Deadpool looked back and saw that Francis, who had been nailed to the wall just now, had disappeared. FK. Do you know what you did? Do you know how much time I spent blocking this damn bitch today? You know what? 99. Deadpool shouted angrily. Sorry, I'm not obligated to help you watch over him. When Francis wanted to escape just now, he had been careful about Levi's and the others. However, after seeing that they did not block any movement, he directly pulled out the long knife nailed to the wall, then turned around and ran away. Levi's didn't choose to kill this guy now, because he needed to know the location of the opponent's research base. Fake. I should have known, you guys are with Francis. Deadpool only reacted at this time, thinking that they were a gang at all. Hey, you can't talk nonsense about this. We are the X-Men, and we are here to help you. Besides, it was you who made the first move just now. The X-Men want to recruit me. Warriors of Justice always have to fight before recruiting villains, and then start to talk shit. After all, that's how shit works. But I think today's affairs must be explained to me properly. You let Francis go, and I will settle it with you. Deadpool didn't doubt his identity as an X-Man, but was furious that they let Francis go. Is it hard to get Francis back? Levi said with his arms crossed indifferently. It's hard. It's very hard. Do you know why I spent so much time waiting until today? Deadpool was angry. If it wasn't for the loss, he would have rushed up. That is, I'll get Francis for you, and then you're willing to join the X-Men. If you could do it in 10 minutes or something. 10 minutes? Okay. No problem. 35. The corners of Levi's mouth were slightly raised. Maybe it was very difficult for others to find Francis who had escaped in 10 minutes, but for him, it couldn't be easier. Exclamation mark. I saw that he clicked his fingers, and in an instant, Francis, who had just escaped not far away, was directly teleported back by space mobility. Deadpool was stunned for a moment, then grabbed Francis, who was still trying to escape, and sent a set of punches, as if to vent his frustration. In just a few moments Francis was beaten out of shape. In the end, Deadpool gave him the final blow, stabbing Francis through the heart. Is it done? Let's go when we're done. Levi's looked at this scene calmly, then turned around and left with Ism. Just now, Celeste had found Francis' research base, so he changed his mind temporarily and captured Francis back. Idiot, I didn't promise to join you. Deadpool sneered and turned to leave, not taking what he just said seriously. However, Deadpool turned around and just took a step, but found that his feet were empty, and he fell into the portal in an instant. Then Deadpool went through another thrilling free fall. After a while, a portal appeared in front of Levi's, and Deadpool also fell from it and smashed to the ground. All he heard was a toothache, and it was obvious that a lot of his bones had been broken. I'll ask you again. Do you want to join the X-Men? Levi's asked lightly. Wait till I'll join. I'll join. Deadpool nodded again and again. He didn't want to try a 10,000 meter free fall. Very well, then let's go. 99. Levi's nodded with satisfaction, then opened a portal and walked in with Ism. What did I see? Is this the portal that appeared in the comics? That kind of exclusive skill of the big guy? It seems that this time, the little bitch may have been really planted. Deadpool was stunned when he looked at the golden aperture in front of him, and the different scenery within the aperture, and all kinds of bullshit never stopped. I'll throw you into outer space if you don't come. A faint voice came from behind the portal. Deadpool was startled, and then quickly crossed the portal. Hey, boss, is it true that you said that you can help my face? As long as you can cure my face, I can promise you anything, even transactions, but I must not tell my girlfriend afterwards. Hearing Deadpool's snarky remarks again, the corners of Levi's mouth twitched slightly, and he doubted whether it was right for him to include this guy in the X-Men. Shut up. Levi's couldn't bear to use the mental suggestion directly, and Deadpool closed his mouth in an instant. Finally quiet. Who are you? Suddenly there was a loud shout, and then several men dressed as security guards came over. It turned out that the portal just now had sent them to Francis' research base. Ism on the side waved his hand, and saw several security guards instantly took out their guns and pointed at each other. Bang bang. After several shots were fired, several security guards perished. Deadpool obviously wants to say something, but he can't open his mouth no matter what, which makes him very uncomfortable. Seeing this, Levi's relieved him of his spiritual suggestion. What do you want to say? Finally able to talk. What I want to say is that this lady did a great job. They should let them shoot each other. Before Deadpool could finish speaking, He was gagged again, and because of the gunshots, the Institute also remembered the harsh siren. Need to turn off the alarm? Asked. Don't worry about it, let's go in. By the way, let Celeste arrange for someone to take over here. Yes. 99. Nodded, and then told Celeste about this on the Mind Network. Celeste quickly arranged for a man to set off. The three entered the Institute. Bang bang bang. They were greeted by countless bullets. Levi's expression did not change, and he waved his hand at will, and the electromagnetic force controlled the bullets to reflect back instantly. In an instant, all the security personnel in the Institute were eliminated. Okay, let's go. 35. Levi's clapped his hands and punched in carelessly. However, at this moment, a figure suddenly rushed out from the side and punched him directly. Boom. Without exception, the incoming person was bounced back and smashed into the wall beside him. Looking at the woman lying on the ground and moaning in pain, Levi's touched his chin and thought, what is this woman's name? He remembered that this woman seemed to be France's strongest subordinate, and the original Bbook was able to fight Colossus without falling behind, so her strength was not bad. Who was on the side, took the initiative to explain, Master, according to our investigation, this woman is called Angel Sand, known as Sand Angel, and she is the #1 thug under Francis. Hearing this, Levi's immediately remembered, leave her alone, let's go to the control room. The three of them left here. Angel Sand Chen just wanted to get up and run away, but found that his body could no longer move. It was as if she could no longer control her body. The other side, in the control room, a researcher in a white coat was panicking operating a computer to download data files, and from time to time he looked back to check the movement outside the door. After finding that there was no movement outside the door, he did not relax, and still quietly stared at the download progress on the computer. 90%. 95%. 99%. However, when it reaches 99%, it seems to be stuck, and there is no movement for a long time. Damn, hurry up. The researcher clenched his fist anxiously, but it was useless to let him urge him. Hey Tilda, are you downloading a small movie? Actually, I have some research on that kind of intense action movie, so how about copying it to me? A cheap voice suddenly sounded behind the researcher, followed by a knife slashing across his neck. Don't kill me, you can do whatever you want, and I will cooperate with you completely. A frightened researcher raised his hands and surrendered very spinelessly. Don't worry, as long as you cooperate obediently, not only will I not kill you, but I will give you a chance to be a new person. 99. Levi's laughed jokingly. When the researcher heard this, he nodded in horror. I'll say anything, as long as you don't kill me. Seeking flowers. Then the first question, who are you? Ordinary people don't study mutant genes, and there is no such conditional study. Levi's guesses that the research is not simple. After hearing this question, the researcher answered honestly, we were originally researchers of the military's X-weapon program, and we belonged to Colonel Stryker. In order to study mutant genes, Colonel Stryker used the military's cover. Several large research bases have been established. It's just that with the fall of Colonel Stryker, the military and government also made clear all Stryker's research bases. Francis was one of the bases. He took some of us out and continued to research changes. Human genes. I see. After hearing this explanation, Levi's nodded. Since the last time he killed Stryker, it seems that Mr. President is also constantly moving. After all, Nick Fury has already told Mr. President who is the murderer behind his assassination, and although Stryker has been killed, there is still a lot of power left. After clearing his mind, Levi's lost interest in the story behind the Institute. What interests him is the research data of this research base, and the scientists who lead all this research. Thinking of this, he took out his mobile phone, and a virtual projection instantly appeared in the air. May I ask what the master needs to do for Misaka? Misaka asked suspiciously. Give me control of this research base, and then protect all research data. Misaka is executing the master's order. The mission is over, and all network data in the research base has been controlled. Misaka's execution is very fast, and it only takes a few seconds to control the entire base. The data that had been downloaded behind the researcher was also cleared. Today, all data and networks in the entire base are controlled by Misaka, and if you want to download data, you must get Misaka's consent. Deadpool and the researcher were stunned when they saw the virtual projection in front of them. Hey, is this thing a legendary artificial intelligence? I don't know if it can help the master fly. Deadpool suddenly closed his mouth before he could finish his words. My tongue was almost bitten off because of talking. Levi's didn't bother to pay any attention to Deadpool. He now had some idea of the level of the guy's talkativeness. After scanning the entire research base using telepathy, he soon found a special person. Come on, let's go meet someone special. Levi's turned and left the control room. Followed closely behind him. Finally, Deadpool, after putting the bloody long knife back in its scabbard, hurried after him. Led by Levi's, the three came to a research room. However, there was no one in the research room. Instead, there was a large hole in the wall. Apparently, people have escaped from here. This guy seems to know that the escape route is blocked, so he directly hit the wall and escaped. 35 guessed after looking at the big hole in Qianshang. Yes, this guy seems to be very cautious. Levi's nodded, then grabbed another researcher who had fainted beside him. Under his telepathy, he soon understood what had just happened. Just when the gunshots sounded, a scientist named Mr. Hyde checked the monitoring and hurriedly prepared to escape. There were others who tried to stop them, but without exception they were all knocked out. The memory of this study ends here. Mr. Hyde? When Levi's heard the name, he felt familiar, flipped through the long-standing memories in his mind, and he suddenly remembered it. Isn't this guy the Hyde who made the Inhuman queen? Maybe you still don't understand this, but as long as he is the biological father of Vibe's daughter Skye, you know who he is. And this research base can successfully study mutants. It is because of Hyde's many years of research on Inhumans. Speaking of which, the Inhumans and the mutants are also closely related. After all, they are both ethnic groups with supernatural powers. However, compared to the large number of mutants, the Inhumans are pitiful. Thinking of this, Levi's also had some interest in the Inhumans. If you sign into the Inhumans, what abilities can you get? However, it is obviously not that simple to ask Mr. Hyde to take him to the territory of the Inhumans. Aren't we going to catch up? Maybe that person hasn't escaped yet? Asked suspiciously. Levi's shook his head. Don't worry, before looking for Mr. Hyde, you have to find someone who can make him obedient. It is almost impossible for Hyde to lead him to the Inhumans, but as long as he finds another person, Hyde should lead the way obediently. And this person is Hyde's daughter Vibe and Skye. I think Levi's also saved her life when the Hulk was fighting against Hatred, and also signed the very useful super ability on her. Lorna and Katie, who tried it, both said they were good. Mountain. Chapter 136. The Shadowcat. Katie. It can be said that the super ability of Shock is one of the most frequently used abilities by Levi's. And as long as he finds Skye, he is not afraid that Hyde will not give in. Let's go back first and let Celeste handle the affairs here. After he finished speaking, he looked at Deadpool again. Go to the XMan and report it yourself. You should know where it is, and if you behave well, I will consider helping you restore your original appearance. Well, in order to prevent you from thinking that I'm lying to you, I'll restore half of your face to you. With that said, Levi's used molecular manipulation to restore half of Deadpool's face to its original shape. Really recovered? You're not kidding me, are you? When Deadpool saw that he just waved his hand and it was over, he felt a little disbelieving. Aren't you going to find a mirror for yourself? Levi's didn't bother to pay attention to him after he finished speaking, turned around and pulled 540 and disappeared into the laboratory. Seeing that he didn't seem to be lying to himself, Deadpool hurriedly found a mirror and lifted his hood to take a look. Sure enough, half of his face was restored to its original state, while the other half was still very terrifying. Oh, that's great, the handsome little bitch is back, but unfortunately he only has half a face. Do I have to wear half a mask? Deadpool was a little depressed, but he still found half a mask and put it on, at least so that he could meet the person he likes. The other side. Levi's and returned to the office. He was wondering how to find Vibe's female Skye. Skye had not joined SHIELD at this time, so she should have joined the Rising Tide organization now. He had heard Katie talk about the Rising Tide, a group of hackers from all over the world. The Rising Tide organization is on the surface to reveal some hidden truths, but it is definitely not so clean behind it, and Katie is also a member of this group. Thinking of this, Levi's called Katie directly. Hey, Vice, you've secretly skipped class again. You know, Mrs. Olo asked me about you today. I said I didn't know. She didn't believe it, and thought I was cheating on her. As soon as the call was connected, Shadowcat started talking non-stop, obviously very dissatisfied with him sneaking away. Katie, do you want to come out alone? 35. Out alone? On a date with you? Shadowcat was very moved to hear this proposal. Yes. You answered the phone without being seen by Clarice and the others? No, definitely not. Shadowcat looked around carefully, but didn't see Clarice and the others. That's good, I'll come to pick you up now. 99. Levi's said and hung up the phone. Shadowcat was about to say something, but found that he had hung up. Katie, let's go. Levi's suddenly appeared behind Shadowcat, startling her. Where are we going? Shadowcat asked suspiciously. Don't ask, come with me. Levi's smiled mysteriously and then dragged her away from the school. They had just left when Clarice and Naughty walked over. Huh? Where's Katie? Were you here just now? The two looked at each other suspiciously. The other side. Levi's took Katie back to the office, where Ism and Tracy were still waiting. Where is this place? Shadowcat came to his senses and found that they were already in an office, and in front of him were two big blondes with the same appearance. Vice, can you explain who they are? Shadowcat asked Levi's with a sullen expression. They're the ones who helped me run this company. Katie, you see this company is ours, and I have a stake in Stark Industries. Levi's quickly changed the subject. Sure enough, Shadowcat was successfully attracted by his words. Is this company yours? And also a stake in Stark Industries? 39. Shadowcat was stunned. Although she didn't know the market value of this company, She knew very well about Stark Industries. Yes, and I'm a major shareholder in Stark Industries. Levi smiled and nodded. How much is that? Shadowcat is a bit unimaginable. Although she is a mutant, she is more of an ordinary woman who has never seen so much money. Ha ha Tilda, you can say whatever you want. We're not short of money. Levi smiled and pulled Shadowcat over and let her sit on his lap. Hearing this, Shadowcat's eyes suddenly lit up. Since her man is so rich, then she can't be polite. I want you to go shopping with me. Definitely no problem. Levi's agreed without any nonsense, and then dragged the Shadowcat for a day shopping. All kinds of girls' clothing, jewelry, etc. were all bought and sold. Night. After, Shadowcat lay on Levi's with a happy face and asked, Vice, why are you being so nice to me today? Huh? What are you asking? You are my woman, shouldn't you be nice to you? Levi's moved as he spoke, causing Shadowcat to roll his eyes. Wait, don't move. I always feel like you're hiding something from me. Cough. It does sound like I have something I want to ask you for help. Levi's coughed dryly. Shadowcat suddenly showed such an expression when he heard the words. Tell me, while I'm in a good mood now. That's it. Levi's explains what it takes to find Skye at the rising tide. Katie looked at him strangely when she heard the words. What's wrong? Levi's was a little puzzled. How did you know I knew Skye? Shadowcat asked in surprise. What? You and Skye know each other? Levi's was confused. And after a long time, Shadowcat and Skye actually knew each other. That's right, we've known each other since we first joined the Rising Tide organization, and we chat often. Shadowcat nodded. That's great. You ask her out for dinner tomorrow at 4.1. If it doesn't work, you can directly locate her. You haven't said what you have to do with her? Shadowcat is a little unhappy. The two are still together, and they think about other women. It's really hateful. Don't get me wrong, it's like this. Levi's had no choice but to explain what had happened before. God, I didn't know that Vice, you actually did such a big thing. Build a research base and research to make ordinary people into mutants. Shadowcat was stunned when she heard the news. She didn't even dare to think about such a thing, but if it really succeeds. Thinking of this, she immediately looked at Levi's with admiration. As expected of her man, he is amazing. Chapter 137. Seeing Miss Skye again. Think about it, if Levi's plan is successful, then the whole world will be a world of mutants, and they will no longer have to worry about being discriminated against. And Levi's is the one who brings about change in the whole world. Thinking of this, she was very proud. Husband, don't worry, I'll help you about Skycat. Shadowcat said that he was about to get up, but suddenly his body fell down. Hey, don't worry. Levi's smiled, then pulled the Shadowcat back. The next day, Shadowcat contacted Skye early in the morning, but the results were somewhat disappointing. Skye said something can't come today. Shadowcat apologized. Anything? Levi's rubbed his chin and thought, can you directly locate the other party's position? 39. Definitely, don't underestimate me, but if I take the initiative to locate Skye, Skye will also take the initiative to locate me. Although Shadowcat and Skye are friends on the internet, they are just ordinary friends. If she takes the initiative to locate the other party, it will definitely arouse Skye's vigilance. And 22 and Skye's hacking ability will definitely also actively locate her location. It's okay, just let her position herself. Levi's waved his hand indifferently. Okay then. Shadowcat nodded, and began typing on the keyboard. Soon, it's been found, and Skye has pinpointed our location from the trail I left. 35. Shadowcat showed Levi's the computer. Levi's looked at it. Didn't realize that Skye was on a street in New York now. What was she doing there? Okay, since we already know the location of the other party, let's go. She definitely didn't expect us to suddenly appear beside her. Now they are in Mexico, and when they suddenly appear in New York, I don't know what Skye's expression will be. It will be very interesting to think about. Thinking of this, Levi's didn't waste any time, pulling the Shadowcat and disappearing into the room. A street in New York. Levi's and Shadowcat appear on the roof of a building. If I'm not mistaken, the Skye you're looking for is in that car, said 33. Shadowcat, pointing to the black car on the street early. Levi's nodded, because he also found Skye different. In telepathy, ordinary humans are white, mutants are red, magicians are blue, and Inhumans are actually gold. Is this the difference between Inhumans? What are we going to do? Go directly to her? Shadowcat asked suspiciously. Definitely. Levi's nodded and was about to take the Shadowcat down when he accidentally found Phil Coulson. Why is he here? He? Who is that bald man? Seems to have seen it before. Shadowcat only felt very familiar after seeing the bald middle-aged man coming out of the car. It's just that they are on the top of the building, and they can't see their faces when they look down, so it's not easy for her to confirm. Levi suddenly wanted to laugh when he heard the bald head. The bald middle-aged uncle is SHIELD Agent Phil Coulson. It's really him. Shadowcat was a little surprised and then said. He walked towards Skye's car. Is it a coincidence? It shouldn't be a coincidence. Levi shook his head. He didn't believe it was a coincidence that Phil Coulson was here. Apparently Phil Coulson was going for Skye. It seems that now is the opportunity for Skye to join SHIELD. It is precisely because of this moment that Skye will become the female director of SHIELD in the future. So should Skye join SHIELD? But negative. Definitely can't let SHIELD take Skye away, otherwise, because of Nick Fury's character, he will definitely not let him go. Wouldn't it be bad to have Skye join the mutants? After all, mutants and Inhumans are races with supernatural powers. Compared with humans, they are obviously closer to each other. Why did SHIELD find her? Could it be that what Skye said was the invasion of SHIELD? Shadowcat guessed in disbelief. The Rising Tide organization is a group of lawless hackers, as can be seen from the fact that they dare to reveal all kinds of hidden facts. Once Shadowcat also relied on its own hacking technology, and did not take any power in its eyes. However, after joining the Mutant Academy, it has converged a lot. In her opinion, Skye must have done something similar, so she was approached by SHIELD. What? Are we going to save her? Shadowcat asked. Definitely, we can't let SHIELD take people away from us, Levis said and disappeared. At the same time, inside a shiny black car by the street, Skye is hacking SHIELD's network, watching the progress keep jumping. 90%. 96%. 98%. Pat. The sudden sound of the door opening startled Skye, who, the sudden opening of the car door made her a little flustered. She had already locked the car door just now, but why was it opened so easily? Is it the owner of the car? Wouldn't it be so coincidental? It turned out that these two cars were not Skye's cars, which was why she was so panicked. However, when Skye took a closer look, he found that the unbelievably handsome man in front of him was the one who saved him last time. It's you? It's too late to explain. Come with me. 35. Levis grabbed Skye's hand involuntarily and disappeared into the 540 in an instant when Phil Coulson was about to approach the car. What? Phil Coulson, who came to the car, was stunned when he saw that the door was open but no one was inside. And the other side. Levis took Skye to the roof. Levis, I remember your name right? 39. Skye didn't know when to hug him, and looked curiously at the magical man in front of him with big eyes. Skye, can you let go of my boyfriend? Shadowcat on the side looked at the two of them unhappily, and then reached out and pulled them away. Skye didn't have any embarrassment, just some doubts about what just happened. She was interrupted before she could finish speaking. Look where. Levis pointed to the vehicle where Skye was just now, and saw 4 or 5 people in black suits carefully examining something. Who are they? Skye frowned, not knowing why he was called to the door. They're people from SHIELD. You should know why they came to you. Levis raised his eyebrows. You must have hacked into SHIELD's system, Shadowcat said with great certainty. But my plan is perfect. Obviously, Skye subconsciously wanted to defend something, but looking at the SHIELD agents below who were constantly searching around, she was at a loss for words. Chapter 138. Skye is stunned. There is such an operation? Well, thank you, you saved my life again. Skye thanked him, but he still had a lot of doubts in his heart. Wait. Don't ask. This is not the place to talk. Let's find a quiet place first. 5. Levis stops Skye, who wants to ask questions, and finds a coffee shop. After a while, the three came to the coffee shop. After asking the waiter for 3 cups of coffee, Levis looked at Skye and said, okay, now you can ask. 35. Skye, who had a lot of questions just now, actually didn't know how to ask, and after thinking about it, she asked, why do you want to save me? I don't believe you are passing by. Definitely because we want to help you. Levis laughed. Help me? Do you have the same goal as me? Want to reveal the secrets of the whole world from SHIELD? Skye looked excited when he said this. Reveal the secrets of SHIELD. Levis looked at her strangely. That's right. A long time ago, the top hackers who were on the rise had noticed SHIELD's domineering behavior on the internet. They used superb technology to block some important information at will, and even made some insiders disappear. Skye said, picked up the laptop that never left his body and tapped it, and then called up a lot of incomprehensible videos. Levis looked a little surprised. I saw videos of Hulk vs. Abomination, Ghost Rider wielding crimson chains, and even Levis vs. Destroyer. There's even a video recording of the big crater left after Levis and Dark Phoenix fight. And there are many more videos like this. All are paranormal phenomena from all over the world. Look, SHIELD is the hound in the hands of the government. They wantonly oppress us and erase the facts that should be known to everyone, so SHIELD is the biggest enemy facing the free people. Skye said excitedly. Hide the truth? The worst enemy? Levis couldn't help but pouted when he heard this. SHIELD was never a democratic and free organization. It should be said that SHIELD was originally a powerful organization. Are you trying to talk democracy and freedom with Nick Fury now? He certainly wouldn't mind putting you in a dark room and brainwashing you. And Levis was not fooled by her words. He always had a faint smile on his face, as if I had seen through you a long time ago. Skye, I'm afraid your purpose is not to reveal to the public what Shield is hiding. 39. Looking at his eyes, Skye didn't want to admit it, but there was a feeling of being seen through his mind. Well, in fact, I hacked into the Shield system to find out my background. So far, I have investigated many places, but only in Shield I got information about me. Seeing her taking the initiative to confess, Levis nodded with satisfaction. Very well, since you want to know your background, then come with me. Hey, I still don't know who you are? Skye asked about the identities of the two. Although she was rescued twice by Levis, she only knew his name. Isn't it obvious? We are mutants, and we belong to the XMan. Levis shrugged. Skye, have you forgotten me? I'm Shadowcat. Shadowcat is the screen name. Katie is chatting with Skye. You are Shadowcat. Are you sure? Skye's eyes widened with a look of astonishment, looking unspeakably funny. Because the other party was still in Mexico when he was positioned just now, how could he have come to New York in an instant? If the other party is using a fake IP, there is no way to hide it from her. Seeing the funny little expression on Skye's face, Levis almost laughed. Well, you are all mutants, and I can understand any strange abilities. After being surprised, Skye thought of the scene where Levis dragged her and disappeared in the car in an instant. Now she finally understood why the other party was able to cross such a long distance in a short time. By the way, you just said you knew my background? Skye asked uncertainly. Levis nodded and started to flicker. Yes, we met a man named Mr. Hyde before. After some investigation, we found that you have a great relationship with Mr. Hyde. If there is no mistake, you should be Mr. Hyde's daughter. Mr. Hyde? Skye frowned at the name. A person she had never heard of. Are you sure he's my father? Definitely. Your father has been looking for you for so many years. If you don't believe it, you can find him and confront him. Levis smiled and nodded. Skye frowned and thought for a moment. Well, I believe you. What should I do? Well, just leave it to me. Levis smiled mysteriously and then borrowed her computer. At the same time, in a dark underground research institute, several researchers in white coats are busy, and one of the dark-skinned women with curly hair was reading a document. Boom. At this time, the door of the laboratory was violently pushed open, and the sudden loud noise shocked everyone in the laboratory. However, after seeing the person coming, all the researchers turned their heads and continued their research without daring to complain at all. Rena, come with me. The visitor was tall and wore a black suit, giving a strong sense of oppression. Mr. Hyde, you're back. The woman called Rena hurried over. Exactly, I want to report to you that Francis who worked with us was killed, which is a big loss for us. 99. Rena was interrupted before she could finish speaking. Those things are no longer important. I want you to investigate a girl named Skye immediately, and I want you to find all her information immediately. 9. Mr. Hyde said excitedly. This appearance made Rena a little strange, because it was the first time she saw the other party show such an expression in so many years. Mr. Hyde, may I ask you to find this girl too? Rena was interrupted again before she could finish speaking. I saw Hyde suddenly grabbed her neck with one hand and lifted her up, angrily said, don't talk nonsense. I said I want her identity information, understand? Hurry up, especially her photo. 5. Alter. Rena, who was pinched by her neck, struggled hard, but to no avail. Seeing that her complexion was flushed and she was about to suffocate, Mr. Hyde regained his senses and let go of his hand. Chapter 139. You can't imagine the happiness of quintuplets. What have I done? I'm sorry, I wasn't like this just now. You should know that my emotions are hard to control, and when I think about that girl's identity, it's hard to control my emotions. You understand? Cough cough tilde. I understand very well, sir. Cough tilde. I'll help you find it. 35. Rena coughed in pain. She didn't dare to delay, and immediately came to the computer and started to operate. Although she was adopted by Mr. Hyde since she was a child, she knew how terrifying the man in front of her was, and she might be killed if she was not careful. When Hyde saw her start searching, he paced back and forth anxiously. The sound was like the death god urging her to die, causing Rena to sweat coldly on her forehead. Mr. Hyde, I found it. After purchasing some information about Skye from the Underground Intelligence Network, Rena finally breathed a sigh of relief, and in an instant, her feet went weak and she almost fell to the ground. However, Hyde ignored her state and came to the computer in surprise. Great, let me see my baby girl. Saying that, Mr. Hyde couldn't wait to open the information sent by the Underground Intelligence Network. When he saw a photo, he was instantly refreshed, and then he enlarged the photo by 540. There can be no mistake, it must be her, my precious daughter, ha 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 tilde. After staring at the photo for a few minutes, Mr. Hyde burst out laughing excitedly. Mr. Hyde, is she your daughter? Lena asked cautiously. Yeah, look how her eyes and nose look like a mother, so I can't see it wrong. She must be my daughter, Hyde introduced excitedly. Congratulations to you, but the news of the Underground Intelligence Network has just been released. Is there any fraud? Rena looked at the information released, and it showed that it was just now. In other words, The information about the girl named Skye was just released. I don't care. I'm going to see my daughter now. Anyone who dares to stop me, I will tear him to pieces. Hyde suddenly roared at Raina with a grim expression on his face. Yes, I understand. Raina was startled and lowered her head, not daring to look at her at all. The other side. Levi's exchanged the computer for her after posting Skye's information on the underground intelligence network. Skye frowned as he looked at the information that he had been revealed. Does this really find the Mr. Hyde you speak of? Definitely. Don't worry. Levi's waved his hand and said confidently. He knew that Hyde had also been looking for Skye, so he only needed to publish Skye's information on the underground intelligence network, which would definitely attract Hyde's attention. Although Skye looked a little dubious, she still chose to believe him in the end. After all, he had already saved her twice. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but be fascinated by the handsome and temperamental man in front of her. Skye wants to add coffee? Shadowcat felt a little uncomfortable seeing her staring at his man all the time. Skye came back to his senses and was a little embarrassed to finish drinking his coffee. Sorry, another cup. The waiter has another cup of coffee. 35. Levi's took the initiative to order her a cup of coffee with some humor. Take Skye to the underground research base of the farm. Master, you are here. He was still greeted by Marv and Phoebe, but after hearing the two call him Raw, he knew it was not good. Vice, can you explain why they are here? And they call you Master? Shadowcat definitely treats Maffy and Phoebe as Celeste, Esm and Tracy McCready in Mexico. After all, they are quintuplets, and their appearance can be said to be exactly the same. Skye on the side also looked at him with strange eyes, as if he didn't expect him to be so handsome, but play so perverted. They're Phoebe and Phoebe, Celeste, Esm and Tracy McCready in Mexico. They're quintuplets. Levi's explained awkwardly. Quintuplets? Shadowcat was stunned for a moment, then looked at him with a half-smile and didn't speak. Skye at the moment on the other side is already very convinced. Although Levi's has a sunny and handsome appearance, she has never seen such a handsome person, and her temperament is not picky, but playing so perverted in secret. He is definitely a playboy. Seeing the expressions of the two of them, Levi's wanted to explain, but he didn't know how to explain it, so he just put it down. Let's go first. Seeing that he didn't explain at all, Shadowcat was a little sullen and had no choice but to follow. Skye said nothing about it. By the way, Vice, you are saying that you want Mr. Hyde, that is, my father, to help you research. What exactly is research? Well, it's okay to tell you. It's research on how to make ordinary people awaken the X gene without side effects and become mutants. To make ordinary people mutants. Skye was stunned when she heard this. She had no idea that it was such a crazy-looking research project. Levi's nodded. Yes, the mutant form today is not optimistic, like your Inhumans. 39. Inhumans? You mean I'm Inhumans? How is that possible? Skye looked confused. She is not a human but an Inhuman? What are you kidding? Yes, you are an Inhuman. Because your mother is also an Inhuman. My mother is an Inhuman? Skye's mind was in chaos, and she didn't know whether to believe him or not. After all, she didn't know what an Inhuman was. Well, let's end this topic. You will find your father and mother sooner or later. Levi's wasn't about to tell her more. After arranging for her to rest first, Levi's came to the laboratory to find out how the scientific research data obtained from Francis was going. Before, he had asked Miss Misaka to upload the date to here, and it seems that someone has already started to study it. Master, please come with me. The scientific research data that was transmitted earlier was organized by Dr. Ethan. Marv led the way. After a while, he came to a laboratory. Mr. Vice, you're here. Ethan walked over with a red face when he found out that he was coming. Looks like Dr. Ethan has been doing well recently. Levi's laughed. Thanks to Mr. Vice for reuniting me with my family. Thank you so much. Dr. Ethan looked grateful. Haha, it's all right. Levi's smiled and waved his hand. By the way, what happened to the analysis of the scientific research data that was sent back earlier? Speaking of business, Dr. Zin also got serious. There are already results. After our preliminary research and analysis, we found that these scientific research data can be used to formulate an awakening agent, which can indeed activate the X gene, and we have been able to make this awakening agent perfectly. Chapter 140 Beat the future father-in-law down. What about success rates and side effects? Levi's asked, frowning. This is his biggest concern. If the success rate and side effects are not ideal, then this formula will have no effect. No experiment has been conducted yet, but according to scientific research data, the probability of awakening the X gene for ordinary people is only 10%, and even this 10% will have various defects, like disfigurement or something. However, the other party's experimental equipment is not very advanced. If we let us experiment, the success percentage is expected to rise to 20%. 20% success rate? Levi's was a little surprised. In his opinion, this success rate was already very high, but it was still meaningless. After all, this awakening medicine needs to be used in conjunction with some experimental equipment, and it has serious side effects, so it is impossible to popularize it. No one wants to be disfigured like Deadpool. So does this awakening potion help our research? Levis continued. Well, both are methods of forced awakening, and the two do have some interoperability, but according to my analysis with Dr. Stern and Dr. Radke, the formulations of these awakening potions seem to be it has been abridged, and the key missing prevents our further research. I see. Levis nodded. It seems that before Hyde escaped that day, the important data had been deleted, or the core data had been kept in his own place. But it doesn't matter, because Hyde will be delivered to his door soon. Time comes tonight. Sure enough, Hyde followed the clues all the way to a farm outside the New York suburbs. May I ask you to be Mr. Hyde? Phoebe and Sayuri greet Hyde outside the farm. I'm Hyde. Where did you hide my daughter? Hurry up and hand it over. Hyde was a little grumpy, because he had just observed that there was no trace of his daughter on this farm. Don't worry, Mr. Hyde, please come with us. Saying so, Phoebe and Sayuri lead the way. Seeing this, Hyde didn't even think about it, so he followed. There were only two women in front of him, and they didn't threaten him in the slightest. If the other party dares to play tricks, he will not show mercy. However, what he didn't know was that the two women in front of him were not ordinary people. Phoebe's telepathy and the existence of a network of minds were comparable to fourth-level mutants. And Sayuri is the female version of Wolverine. She has almost regenerative healing factor, so she is not afraid of fighting. All the way to the underground research base. Hyde looked a little surprised. He didn't expect that there would be such a spacious and well-equipped research base under the farm. You are welcome, Mr. Hyde. Seeing that the person has been brought here, Levi's also personally met with the future cough tilde, is the future scientific research talent. Hyde looked at the young man in front of him and said unceremoniously, where is my daughter? Hand her over quickly. Don't worry, Mr. Hyde. I said, hurry up and hand over my daughter. The grumpy Hyde roared, but saw his whole body swell in a circle. Levi's was a little surprised to see this, but he knew that Hyde's strength was good. Hyde has an ability similar to that of the Hulk, and can make himself swell a lot. And there is this powerful regeneration ability, physical and stamina, and so on. It is said that at its peak it could even rival Thor. Levi's would like to see how strong this guy's ability is. Sayuri, try him. Yes, master. Sayuri agreed, then stretched out her claws and charged towards Hyde. Although Hyde was a little surprised that this weak-looking woman was able to stretch out her claws, he would not show mercy. I saw that he relied on his tall body, and directly punched him from top to bottom at Sayuri. Sayuri is not a vegetarian either. She ducked the punch with a bow, then ran directly under Hyde, and stabbed him in the waist with a grab. However, Hyde's response was not slow, and saw that he hit a knee unexpectedly, and after he took a bite, he also successfully knocked Sayuri out. Boom. This time the force is not light. Sayuri was directly smashed to the wall and then bounced back. But fortunately, her body is relatively hard. After all, the bones are adamantium. But she climbed up in a moment. Forget it, Sayuri, get back first. Seeing that Sayuri was going to continue, Levi's hurriedly stopped her. For flowers. In terms of Hyde's strength, Sayuri might not be his opponent. Hand over my daughter. Hyde ignored Sayuri and turned to look at Levi's, his bloodshot pupils looking a little terrifying. Master, be careful. Sisters Sophie and Phoebe saw this standing in front of him. Pulling the two sisters away one by one, Levi's said with a bit of laughter, you two just stand behind me obediently. When will I need your protection? But master, the two sisters were a little unconvinced. Okay, reward you in the evening. Stand up for me now. Levi's indisputable words made the two of them unable to resist at all, and even had a little bit of joy in their hearts. 0. It was at this moment that Hyde saw that he never answered his own words, but flirted with the two women next to him. The anger in his heart suddenly made him lose his mind and rushed over. Give me back my daughter. With a roar, Hyde punched Levi's with all his strength. A gust of wind blew up the whole room, and it was hard to keep one's eyes open. Levi's didn't change his face, and when his fist was only a few centimeters away from himself, he finally moved. I saw that he grabbed Hyde's fist with one hand, and then smashed it to the ground with his backhand. Boom. This time, the ground seemed to tremble a bit, and the metal ground sank a little. Under the fall, Hyde seemed to be completely powerless, and immediately became soft. Now it's time to be honest. Levi smiled and looked at Hyde, who was lying on the ground weakly. At this moment, Shadowcat and Skye came over. Vice, what happened? Shadowcat and Skye were resting in the room just now, and came out after hearing the noise. It's Skye, your father is here, look. Levi's pointed to Hyde, who was lying still on the ground, and smiled. Skye, who was still a little excited at first, suddenly became stunned when he heard the words. This technical further lying motionless on the ground. Did something go wrong? Shadowcat looked at him strangely, as if to ask why Skye's father was put there. Chapter 141. Father and daughter recognize, Inhuman Queen. It took a long time for Levi's to explain clearly to the two. Is he really my father? Skye squatted in front of Hyde with a complicated expression. Some couldn't believe that this tall and impulsive man in front of him could actually be his father. Don't you know when he wakes up and confront him? Levi's shrugged. Skye rolled his eyes when he heard the words, It seems that you are the one who knocked him out. Forehead. Levis was speechless. He didn't expect Hyde to look so big, and it is said that he has the strength of Thor's hard steel, but it doesn't seem that strong at present. However, he estimated that Hyde's strength should not have reached its peak. He even guessed that Hyde is not an ordinary person, but a mutant. After all, if an ordinary person sips 2 bottles of medicine, he can fight Thor head-on, and no one will believe it. To become stronger, you also need to follow the rules. Okay? The rich rely on technology, and the poor rely on mutation. You don't have anything. You just want to go to heaven with only 2 bottles of medicine. Do you think you are a sentry who has the power of 1 million fixed stars after drinking the medicine? Stop dreaming, wash and sleep. It's not like that. So, in Levi's view there is only one explanation. That is, Hyde was actually a mutant originally, or he was forced to awaken the X gene to become a mutant because of the potion he said he made. It does have something in common with the recipe Francis got it back from. Maybe that awakening potion is just a low-end version. After all, Hyde and Francis are just a partnership, and he will definitely not come up with a complete formula. It was at this time Hyde, who was lying on the ground, finally woke up slowly. At first glance, he was attracted by Skye, who stared straight at Skye without blinking. Hey, is he like this? Did you make me fool? Skye looked at Levi's beside him in a strange way when he saw Hyde staring at him without moving. Levi's touched his chin. It shouldn't be stupid after being dropped. Could it be a touch of porcelain? Daisy, my daughter? At this time, Hyde on the ground finally had a reaction. He looked at Skye tightly, and his hands involuntarily touched her face. Seeing this, Skye quickly stepped back and stood up and took a few steps back. What do you want? Hyde stood up excitedly. My dear daughter, it's really you. I can't imagine it. It's like a dream. I'm afraid I'll wake up, but no matter what, I finally see you. Hyde was a little incoherent with excitement. He walked towards Skye step by step, his hands trembled slightly, showing his nervousness. However, Skye involuntarily took a few steps back to Levi's when he saw him approaching. The man in front of her who looked like a monster gave her a sense of oppression, which made her very vigilant. Don't come here, Daisy. Looking at Daisy who was very vigilant, Hyde was stunned for a moment. Only then did he realize that because of his transformation just now, he now looks like a monster. No wonder he is disliked. It's not like that, Daisy, listen to me. Hyde tried his best to explain something, but with his current appearance, he was a little powerless to explain, and he could only be anxious for a while. Skye, can you wait here first? What are you going to do? Skye asked curiously. I'll take Mr. Hyde to prepare first, and I'll bring the father in your mind later, Levi said with a smile. Skye frowned at Hyde and nodded. Mr. Hyde, please come with me. Are you ready to meet your daughter just like that? Levi's came to Hyde and whispered. When Hyde heard the words, he nodded again and again as if he had seen a savior. He really should have prepared, but his current appearance was a little scary. Soon, Levi's took Hyde to a room. Want to restore the influence in your daughter's mind? Coming to the room, Levi's asked directly without any nonsense. Definitely, please. Please help me. Hyde's voice trembled at the moment, like a drowning man suddenly grabbed a life-saving straw. At the moment he just wanted to restore his image in his daughter's mind, and then the father and daughter recognized each other. As long as you can help me, you can let me do anything. Hyde's words are firm, and in order to recognize his daughter, he is willing to do anything. Remember what you said. The corners of Levi's mouth twitched slightly. That's what he was waiting for. No nonsense. He waved one hand and instantly changed Hyde's look. Wait until they come out of the room again. Hyde has turned into a handsome, tall middle-aged man in a suit and leather shoes with a big back. And at the moment Hyde's attitude towards Levi's was much better. The two came to Skye. Skye kept you waiting. You can chat now. Levi's smiled and came to Skye and sat down. Skye's eyes were always on Hyde. Compared with the monster-like image just now, the image of the middle-aged man in front of her was undoubtedly closer to the image of her father. Are you really my father? Skye asked suspiciously. Hyde wanted to say something, but he didn't know where to start. Seeing this, Levi's shook his head helplessly and said, let me tell you, your father's real name is Calvin Zabo. He doesn't know much, so he can only beautify what he knows and then say it. Don't forget that Mr. Hyde's identity is an evil crime boss. If Skye knew this, she would have a hard time accepting it, as it should be. Hyde didn't know how to start. What Levi's said was about an old father who lost his wife and daughter, and paid too much price over the years in order to find his daughter and wife. 4.1 The story of finally making yourself invisible. After hearing this explanation, Hyde finally breathed a sigh of relief. Further as for me. After listening to his story, Skye unknowingly had tears in the corners of Jian's eyes, and was deeply moved. However, she doesn't say fools, there are still loopholes in this story. But why did he abandon me and my mother? Well, this question is definitely a last resort. According to Levi's understanding, it should not be Hyde who abandoned their mother and daughter, but Hyde's wife, the queen of the Inhumans, who voluntarily abandoned them. The Inhumans are very xenophobic, not even the queen's husband. As such, The Queen of the Inhumans will abandon them. But leave this to Hyde to explain himself. Chapter 142 Shy Skye. Daisy, things are not what you think. At the beginning, Hyde's eyes were deep, and he told everything that happened at the beginning. After Hyde and Skye's mother met, they encountered Hydra. The Hydra people discovered that Skye's mother had supernatural powers, so they took Skye's mother for experimentation. Later, Hyde went mad and wanted to get a lot of power and rescue Skye's mother. However, after he possessed great power, Skye's mother had already disappeared without a trace, and even the Hydra that took Skye's mother away had disappeared. So Hyde has been looking for their mother and daughter for so many years. Levis heard this and slowly exited the room. He actually had some guesses in his mind. This story is very bloody. Skye's mother named Jia is the queen of the Inhumans. One day, out of rebelliousness or fun, he left the territory of the Inhumans. When he was wandering in the outside world, he met Mr. Hyde. The two quickly fell in love and gave birth to Skye, Daisy Johnson. After encountering Hydra, Jia and Skye were both captured. But Mr. Hyde was unable to rescue him, so he was obsessed with research to gain powerful power. He succeeded. But when he searched again for the Hydra that took his wife and daughter, he found that the Hydra had disappeared. Did Jia kill those Hydras, or did the Inhumans come to the rescue? That's not clear. In short, the Inhumans forcibly brought Jia back to the Inhumans after discovering that she had a husband and children outside, and her daughter Skye was abandoned by the Inhumans. With a sigh, Levis left the room, and then handed it over to the father and daughter to talk. How is the situation? Seeing him coming out of the room, Shadowcat asked curiously. I'm sure they'll reconcile. Levis smiled past Shadowcat's waist and walked to the other room. Vice, it's still daytime. Shadowcat looked left and right and was relieved to see that no one was looking here. Levis asked with a raised eyebrow. Definitely. Shadowcat thought about it and nodded decisively. Then let's go. Levis said and picked up Shadowcat directly, and then entered the room with Shadowcat's startling sound. Hey, don't use vibration super ability, huh? You don't like it? The next day, Levis went out in good spirits early in the morning. Mr. Levis. It was Mr. Hyde who got up earlier, and from the looks of him, he had been waiting for a long time. Want to leave with Skye? Apparently, Levis had guessed his purpose. Yes, I want to take her to see her mother, who will surely be as happy as I am when she sees her. 99. Hyde said excitedly. That's the way it should be. Levis folded his arms and smiled. Hyde was very happy to hear that, and he didn't want any more accidents at this time. Mr. Vice, I promised to help you with anything before. I heard that you are studying the X gene of mutants here. I can send you all my research materials. Levis nodded nonchalantly. Hyde was also very happy to see that he agreed, and exchanged his research materials for his daughter, which was much more worthwhile than buying and selling. Mr. Hyde, you also know that I am currently researching the X gene, and I am in need of manpower, so I hope you can stay and help me. 5. Levis wanted more than just research materials. He wanted Hyde more. Hearing this, Hyde's face suddenly turned gloomy. You know it's impossible. I'm taking Daisy to see her mother. It's not a problem. It's the same when you come back after meeting. Levis shook his head. After hearing this, Hyde couldn't help clenching his fists. After a long time, he let out a light breath, and the clenched fists also loosened. I promise. Very good. Levis nodded with satisfaction. By the way, the last requirement is that you must take me with you when you go to the Inhumans territory. This is impossible. Hearing this, Hyde subconsciously refused. You can change to other requirements. I won't tell anyone about the seclusion of the Inhumans. This is the biggest secret of the Inhumans. 35. Levis waved his hand and said with a smile, I definitely know that this is the secret of the Inhumans, but I have no ill intentions to find the Inhumans. After all, we mutants and Inhumans are in a similar situation, and we can't kill each other. Impossible. I won't tell anyone the location of the Inhumans territory. Hyde's attitude is still very firm. Oh, this is not easy to do. Levis spread his hands helplessly. He didn't want to use telepathy, but now he can't. Vice, what are you talking about, Dad? Skye saw what the two of them were talking about, so he came over curiously. No. Nothing to talk about, baby girl. When Hyde saw Skye, he suddenly showed a silly smile. Skye couldn't help but PSST laughed out loud. Vice, you must be hiding something from me. What is it? Smart Skye is not so easy to fool. That's the case. Mr. Hyde promised me something before, but now he wants to go back on it, which makes me very embarrassed. Levis smiled helplessly. Is that so? Hearing this, Skye looked at his father with a serious look. No. That's not the case. I have already promised him several conditions. 35. Hyde defended. Skye turned his gaze to Levis again. That's right. I said 2 conditions, and it's not a very embarrassing thing. I just want to ask Mr. Hyde to take you to see your mother. Just take me with you, by the way. Levis shrugged. When Skye heard this, he suddenly became a little confused. What does it mean to take you with you when you go to see your mother? Could it be that the first condition of father has promised to give himself to him? Thinking of this, Skye frowned and looked at his father. How can you do this? How can I date him as soon as we met, and he already has a girlfriend, huh? 5? Both Levis and Hyde were a little confused, not knowing what she was talking about. Baby girl, have you misunderstood something? My first condition is to promise him and work for him. 35 Hyde said cautiously. Work? Skye was stunned for a moment, and then her embarrassed face turned red, and she realized that she was wrong. Why did you think of dating Levi's before? Damn, can't go on thinking like this. Dad, it seems that you still have a lot of secrets that you haven't told me. Skye coughed awkwardly, and then asked, whose mother? Where is it? Why does Levi's want to go with us? Chapter 143. Looking for the Inhumans. Hermitage. Facing his daughter's question, Mr. Hyde sighed. It's time to tell you these things. In fact, your mother is the queen of the Inhumans. Aliens? When Skye heard the name Inhumans, he suddenly remembered that Levi's had said this name before. With Hyde's explanation, she finally understood that the Inhumans were a race very similar to mutants, and they were also a race that survived from ancient times. This explanation brought her a lot closer to Levi's. After listening to Hyde's narration, Skye frowned and said, so why did you refuse advice to go to the Inhumans' territory with us? Hyde frowned and explained, because the hidden habitat of the Inhumans is the secret of the Inhumans. Once exposed, I am afraid it will bring endless troubles to the Inhumans. Daisy, do you understand when I say this? 5. However, since it is something that has already been promised, it cannot be broken. Skye frowned, although she agreed with her father's words very much. But since she had promised Levi's, she must do it. She is very aware of the horror of Levi's, and if she is angry with the other party, I am afraid that they will not have any good results. She was convinced of this. Mr. Hyde, I can only say that you are too sensitive. The Inhumans are very mysterious, and not many people know about it. Even if they are discovered, they are only considered mutants. Besides, we mutants just want to cooperate with the Inhumans, and have no other ideas at all, and you don't think that I can't know if you don't say it? Speaking of which, Levi smiled mysteriously. Hearing this, Hyde and Skye were a little silent. Obviously what they said just now was a clear threat. Hyde looked gloomy and couldn't help clenching his fists, but at this moment, he suddenly realized that his body could no longer move. Okay, I agreed, but I hope you don't play tricks, otherwise I will definitely make you pay. 35. Out of desperation, Hyde had to agree. Otherwise, I am afraid that their father and daughter would not be able to get out of here today. That's right, 99. Levi's ignored Hyde's harsh words and nodded in satisfaction. Then, Mr. Hyde, hurry up and prepare, and we will set off when we are ready. When Hyde heard this, he pulled Skye and turned around and left. Only then did he realize that he could move again, which made him jealous of Levi's in his heart. An hour later, Levi set off with Hyde and Skye. Yanin Gizaborder. This is the land of neighbors of the Inhumans, the afterlife. In the blink of an eye, he arrived in the Dragon Country from New York, and Mr. Hyde was shocked. This kind of instant teleportation across such a long distance made him a little unbelievable. The horror in his heart also made him more vigilant about Levi's. On the contrary, Skye was a little shocked but also a little admired. This is the secluded place of the Inhumans? It feels far behind than I imagined. Looking at the town like an ancient village, Levi's only felt a little weird. Kamar-Taj at least still has magic array shielding technology detection, and the architectural style is also very high-end atmosphere. And the secluded place of the Inhumans looks like an ordinary village. But maybe this is the way the Inhumans live in seclusion. After all, no one would have imagined that such an ordinary village would be a place of seclusion for the Inhumans. Thinking of this, Levi's took Hyde and Skye to use space to move again, and appeared directly in the Inhumans village. The three people who suddenly appeared in the town immediately attracted the attention of the surrounding villagers. When it was discovered that they were strangers, all the pedestrians on the street ran away in an instant. It seems that these Inhumans are timid after all, Levi said helplessly. That's because they haven't heard much about ordinary people mutilating them, Hyde explained. This is already a matter of the previous generation. He reckoned that he grew up in the stories of various human beings mutilating the Inhumans, so he was so afraid of strangers. It seems that the situation of the Inhumans is indeed not very good. The three walked towards the center of the town. Soon there were a dozen people standing in front of him. Among the dozen or so people, the most conspicuous one stood in the middle, an Oriental woman with a scar on her face. The woman watched Levi's and Skye vigilantly, her eyes full of hostility, and then her eyes turned to Hyde. Calvin, why are you here? When she saw her former husband, the woman's face suddenly became gloomy. Dear, look who I brought. Hyde excitedly pulled Skye to the woman. Calvin, how dare you bring outsiders here? The woman's face was a little ugly. Sorry, dear, this is our daughter Daisy. Hyde was stunned for a moment, and then explained anxiously. Daisy. The woman was stunned for a moment. She looked at Skye seriously and found that Skye did look very similar to herself, and with her Inhuman Queen's ability, she can feel that the other party is also Inhuman. Are you really Daisy? The woman was a little surprised. Daisy, her name is Jia Ying, is your mother. 35. Hyde hurriedly introduced Skye. Are you really my mother? There were tears in Skye's eyes. She couldn't believe that the mother she thought about day and night actually appeared in front of her. Definitely, child, but now is not the time to say that. You take her down first." Jia Ying waved her hand, and a few aliens behind her stepped forward to pull Skye away. Seeing this, Skye subconsciously hid behind Levi's. Although she had already confirmed in her mind that the woman in front of her was her mother, she was still very wary of others. Several alien guards absolutely obeyed the Queen's orders, and when they saw her dodging, they surrounded her again. Seeing this, Hyde was a little anxious. "Dear, she is our daughter. It is because she is my daughter that I will take her away, because she is also an Inhuman, not like you." After speaking, Jia Ying looked at Hyde with a trace of hatred in her eyes. Yes, it is hatred. After she was taken away by Hydra, she was tortured. At that time, she hoped that Hyde would come to save her, but she did not wait for Hyde to appear. It was the Inhumans who saved her. Although I also learned later that Hyde really worked hard, he also forgave him. But the hatred for human beings has not weakened in the slightest, but has grown even more hated over the years. Yet at this time, several Inhumans who wanted to catch Skye suddenly screamed in surprise. "What's the matter? I can't move." "I can't move either." "Who did the hands and feet?" When the two aliens found that they were suddenly unable to move, their expressions changed drastically. When Jia Ying heard their words, her face turned gloomy. She looked at Levi's and asked sharply, "Who the hell are you?" "Humphrey, I'm a mutant." Levi's snorted softly. "Mutant, 35. Jia Ying frowned. But the two alien guards who were able to control her should not be ordinary people either. Chapter 144 The Mighty Levi's. The choice of the Inhuman Queen. Even mutants can't make trouble in the territory of the Inhumans, and our Inhumans have never communicated with your mutants. So why do you mutants appear here? "I came to cooperate with your Inhumans, but it seems that your Inhumans' attitude is not good." Levi's is also too lazy to put a hot face and a cold butt. Since Jia Ying's attitude is indifferent, then he has to use violence to break his hand. The entire Inhumans town doesn't look big. It is estimated that there are only 2,000 or 3,000 people. Among them, there are even fewer aliens with supernatural powers. It's not difficult to have full control. He came here for only two purposes. One was to obtain genetic research from the Inhumans. The other is to use the Inhumans as a sign-in target for the reserve. It may be more convenient to directly control all of them. When Jia Ying heard these unceremonious words, her face suddenly turned cold. However, after seeing the two alien guards who were still unable to move, her expression softened a little. "This guest, thank you for helping me find my daughter. Since you want to cooperate, please come with me." Levi's just got ready to do it, but he didn't expect Jia Ying to soften. Seeing this, he is not in a hurry to make a move, but he wants to see what the other party wants to do. The group came to a stone room. Although it is a stone room, after entering it, it seems not much different from a modern room. The appearance of the stone room outside is just a cover. In the room, in addition to Levi's and Skye and Hyde, there are Jia Ying and an Inhuman man without A's. If I remember correctly, this man's name is Gordon, and his ability is teleportation in an area. It seems that Jia Ying is not defenseless, although this defense is useless to Levi's. "As mutants, why did you come back to find us aliens?" Jia Ying asked directly without being polite. "It's simply collaboration." "Cooperation?" Jia Ying raised her brows. She didn't think there was anything for them to cooperate with Inhumans and mutants. "Tell me, how do you mutants want to cooperate?" "It's very simple. You only need to provide all the genetic research data and information. We are studying the X gene, and once successful, the whole XMan world will usher in the era of mutants." Levi's explained it briefly. Hearing this, Jia Ying was a little shocked, but she didn't expect his ambition to be so big. If successful, maybe as he said. But what good are the Inhumans? Jia Ying's eyes flickered. She would not agree to something that was not good for her. "Benefits? Isn't it the greatest benefit for you to let the age of mutants come? No ordinary people will come to mutilate you at that time, right?" "Are you kidding me?" Jia Ying felt that she was about to laugh angrily. "You wanted all the research materials of our Inhumans when you opened your mouth, but what you got in return was just empty words. Are you taking me for a fool?" "You said it yourself." "I didn't say it." Levi's shrugged and said, "I want to ask you a question. Why do you Inhumans choose to live in seclusion in this place where birds don't shit?" "Definitely to keep away from the harassment of ordinary people," Jia Ying replied, holding back her anger. Levi sneered, "Stay away from the harassment of ordinary people? Ha ha, I am afraid you are afraid of ordinary people. Once you are discovered by ordinary people, you will be cruelly used as experimental material. I am right." 99. Compared with mutants, although the Inhumans are more united, they are also weaker. A fourth-level mutant like Magneto can lead people to do things in human society at will. If the government wants to deal with him, they must measure the strength of Magneto's fourth-level mutant. Not to mention Professor X, who has the ability to instantly kill all human beings. It can be said that the fourth-level mutants are like nuclear bombs, shocking ordinary people and making them dare not act trashly. On the other hand, the Inhumans do not have much resistance in the face of ordinary humans, which shows how weak the Inhumans are. But this is normal. After all, this Inhuman race on Earth is just an abandoned branch. The truly powerful Inhumans have moved away from the Earth at a very early time. As if being touched on the pain point, Jiaying was a little angry, but she couldn't find a reason to refute. They are indeed afraid of human beings, otherwise how could they hide in these deep mountains? Seeing that she didn't speak, Levis continued, with the technological development of ordinary people, how long do you think the Inhumans can hide? But it will be different if we usher in the era of mutants. Although you aliens are different from mutants, they are all races with super ability. As long as you don't say it, no one will know that you are aliens, so that you can also live in a human society with integrity. And as long as you promise, we mutants can also give you some help, that's all, just think about it. 35. After speaking, Levis ignored her, turned to look at Skye, who was staring at him, and joked, isn't he too handsome? 5. Skye blushed when he heard the words, no. Levis smiled when he heard this. At the moment Jiaying fell into deep thought. She couldn't understand the situation of the Inhumans. Over the years, the Inhumans have been weaker from generation to generation, and if this continues, I am afraid that the Inhumans will completely disappear from history. This is something she absolutely does not want to see. And once the mutant era is ushered in, as he said, then their alien race can also appear in the human society with integrity. Propagation will not be a problem by then. Thinking of this, she moved a little. I want to know who you are. Can you represent mutants? Hearing her visibly shaken words, Levis smiled and said, definitely. 55. The simple words made Jiaying frown. Why do you represent mutants? Professor X or Magneto behind you? Levis shook his head. Neither. Is it enough that I am a level 5 mutant? What? Jiaying was shocked when she heard the words 5th level mutant. She is still very clear about the classification of mutants. Even the 4th level mutants are beyond their reach. Mutants of this level even the government would not dare to do anything to them. And how strong the 5th level mutants above them are, she can't imagine at all. It is no wonder that the other party came to the Inhumans territory with a fearless appearance. With the current strength of the Inhumans, even trying to deal with the 4th level mutants is a problem, let alone the 5th level mutants. And since there are 5th level mutants among the mutants, it means that the mutants have united. Chapter 145. Marry Skye to me? The Inhuman relic obelisk. Although the current situation of mutants is not ideal, once united, they are a force to be reckoned with. This force is so powerful that no country can ignore it. Not to mention a powerful 5th level mutant like Levis. Thinking of this, Jiaying felt a little moved, and looked at her daughter Daisy, who was sitting beside Levis. She nodded. I promise to cooperate with you mutants, and I am also willing to fully cooperate with your research. X-Gene, but I have 2 conditions. Oh? 39. The corners of Levi's mouth were slightly upturned. He felt that he had given Jiaying the greatest benefit. He didn't expect Jiaying to still have the conditions. Seemingly sensing something was wrong, Jiaying said quickly, Sir, please listen to me and finish my words. After knowing that she was facing a level 5 mutant, her attitude involuntarily became a lot more respectful. Then let's talk about it first. Levi smiled and said, by the way, you should know the super ability of telepathy, so I hope you don't let me down. When Jiaying heard this obvious threat, she was no longer so calm. Her forehead involuntarily left a cold sweat. She is definitely very aware of the ability of telepathy. After all, the famous Professor X is proficient in this ability. As a 5th level mutant, Levi's actually has the super ability of telepathy. So how strong is his ability? I'm afraid I can easily modify the memories of all the Inhumans. Thinking of this, Jiaying's heart only trembled. Please listen to me, sir. As an Inhuman and a mutant with good proof, I hope to entrust my daughter Daisy to you. What? Before Jiaying finished speaking, Skye couldn't help but let Raw be shocked. How could you do this? Skye looked at his mother in disbelief. He didn't expect that the other party would hand him over to the police before they said a few words. Did something go wrong? Daisy, according to the Inhuman tradition, the marriage of children can only be decided by their parents, and Mr. Weiss is a powerful 5th level mutant at a young age. There is nothing wrong with marrying him. Jiaying frowned. But, you and your father are clearly in free love. Why are you taking care of me now? Skye frowned. Completely incomprehensible. This. Jiaying was a little speechless, thinking that her choice to leave the Inhuman seclusion place had nothing to do with marriage. Levi's was interesting to watch, but he didn't want to force Skye. Okay, let's end this matter. Love is free. You can't do it as parents. How can you let your daughter accept it? Jiaying and Hyde only felt a little ashamed when they heard this. The lesson, mister. At the moment, where did Jiaying still look like just now? Like a child who made a mistake. But she soon adjusted. I hope Mr. Weiss will agree to the second condition, Jiaying said earnestly. Tell me about it. Levi's waved his hand, but did not answer directly. Jiaying finally breathed a sigh of relief. Please wait for a moment. After saying that, Jiaying left the living room, but she came back soon with a small box in her hand. She opened it carefully and drank it, which contained a Rasha crystal. This crystal is called the Mist of Terrigen, and it is the key prop for our Inhumans to awaken the ability. If we Inhumans want to awaken the super ability, we must use it. And the purity of the Terrigen mist also affects the success rate of awakening, but due to technical limitations, there are too many impurities in the Terrigen mist, which greatly affects the awakening probability and strength of the Inhumans. So you want me to help you create a higher purity mist of Terrigen? Levi said with interest in his arms. However, Jia Ying shook her head. No, the mist of Terrigen is the highest technological achievement of the Inhumans. It is very difficult to purify it, and the production needs to be increased. So what? Levi's was starting to be a little bit annoying. Seeing this, Jia Ying didn't beat around the bush. We Inhumans were created by the Cree using the genes of the ancestors of the mutants, and I know a relic left by the Cree on the Earth, where there is technology about Terrigen's manufacturing. Seeking flowers. And it is very likely that there is a secret of the origin of the Inhumans. Definitely, there may also be a secret of the mutants hidden. Yes, Levi's shrugged undeniably. He didn't fully believe Jia Ying's words, and he knew what technology was in it before he went in. Isn't this kidding? Therefore, Jia Ying's words can only be half believed. The Cree relics should be real, and if I remember correctly, there is a special item related to the Cree relics, which is the obelisk. As to what was in the Cree ruins, it is not known. We call that place the Holy Land. For so many years, the Inhumans have been looking for the location of the Holy Land, but unfortunately. 99. It's a pity you didn't find it. Levi said. That's right, we didn't find it, but we know how to find the Holy Land. To find the Holy Land, we need a holy artifact. Jia Ying said and took out a photo from the box. The photos are in black and white and have apparently been out for some years. The photo is of a tin box with the indeterminate number 084 marked on it. Levi's thought to himself, sure enough, this box is an obelisk, if nothing else happens to you. As predicted, Jia Ying introduced, this is the creature of our Inhuman race. The obelisk. Jia Ying introduced. The obelisk was first found by Hydra people during World War II, and then the base of Hydra was taken away by the special forces of the Chu country, and the obelisk also fell into the hands of the Chu country. So where exactly is this thing? Levi's raised his eyebrows. Since the Inhumans knew about the obelisk's disguise, why didn't they take it back? It's in a military base in White Kingdom. Because the military base is heavily guarded, it is impossible to sneak in. We also tried to push hard, but after losing many of our fellow clansmen, the plan also failed. 35. Speaking of this, Jia Ying's face was a little heavy. After all, the dead clansmen lost their lives because of her recklessness. Mountain. Chapter 146 Skye's Troubles and Confessions. After hearing Jia Ying's explanation, Levi's finally understood why the Inhumans didn't take the obelisk back. Because they don't have that power at all. Even ordinary people's guns and ammunition can't resist, which shows how lonely the Inhumans are. No wonder Jia Ying put her own daughter into his arms. However, if he wants to get Skye, he can't use this method. So your request tells me to get my hands on the obelisk? Levi smiled with his arms crossed. Jia Ying nodded earnestly. That's right. As long as Mr. Vice can take back the obelisk for us, I will be sure to find the remains of the Cree people. At that time, there will be knowledge and technology about the Cree, etc., which can be shared with the mutants. What do you think, Mr. Vice? Yes. 99. Levi's agreed without any hesitation. He was very interested in the obelisk and the remains of the Cree. However, at that time, what was in the remains of the Hook people at 550 could be determined by what he said. Jia Ying seems to have thought of this too, but she believes that the information about the Inhumans will not be of any use to the mutants, and she can find a way to get it at that time. And her good daughter Daisy is the best bargaining chip. After Jia Ying has experienced so many things, she is no longer the little flower that Hyde picked up, but a person who will do anything for the Inhuman race. In order to make the Inhumans stronger, she can do it without hesitation even if it sacrifices her own daughter. Thank you, Mr. Vice. 35. Seeing his promise, Jia Ying immediately thanked him a little excitedly, and at the same time she was also ecstatic. How to get the obelisk has always been a problem for her, but she didn't expect that the solution to this problem would be delivered to her door voluntarily. In Jia Ying's view, this is the moment when the Inhumans rise. At that time, as long as you get the Inhumans technology left by the Cree, the Inhumans will become extremely powerful, even if it is a 5th-level mutant. At this moment, Jia Ying's heart swelled incomparably, and this idea happened to be known by Levi's telepathy. He sneered in his heart, this Jia Ying is really an unfamiliar white-eyed wolf, but he wanted to see what kind of expression Jia Ying would have after the plan failed. Afterwards, Levi's, Skye and Hyde all stayed at the reception of Jia Ying. Night. Levi's was chatting with Phoenix Board, when the door suddenly rang. Vice, are you there? Is it Skye? How did she come here so late? Levi's was a little strange, but he waved his hand and opened the door. Come in. As soon as Skye opened the door, she saw Levi's shirtless lying on the bed. Her exploding and strong muscles made her a little unable to look away, and she couldn't see it at all during the day. Close the door. Huh? Oh. Levi's voice finally brought Skye back to her senses, and she closed the door a little embarrassed. But when she closed the door, she realized that the atmosphere was a little ambiguous. Just say something. Levi's was a little speechless seeing her hesitant look. Thank you. Skye said thanks with a reddish face. How can you say thank you? You have to be practical. Levi's teased with a smile. Hearing him say that, Skye was even more embarrassed, but she still possessed herself and closed her eyes and approached. Levi's was a little surprised to see this, Is this the rhythm to send a kiss? Then he's welcome. Without much hesitation, he looked at Skye's little mouth and snorted. Skye's eyes widened immediately when she saw this, with a look of disbelief. She just wanted to kiss his face just now, but she didn't expect the first kiss to be taken away like this. However, when she looked at Levi's in front of her, she thought to herself that this might not be a loss. And since it's the first kiss, it's definitely a good experience. Thinking of this, Skye took the initiative to embrace Levi's and devote himself to it. After a long time, the two separated. At this time, Skye realized that his clothes were already a little messy. Seeing this, Skye couldn't help but rolled his eyes at him. Now you should be satisfied. Cough tilde definitely. Levi nodded decisively. Skye's mouth was really sweet, and his figure was also very good. Skye couldn't help rolling his eyes again when he saw that he was getting a bargain and selling well. Skye, it's not just to thank you for coming so late. Levi's took the initiative to change the subject. Skye couldn't help but sighed. Vice, you know I've always been looking forward to seeing my father and mother, but after meeting, I found that it was different from what I imagined. Levi's took over. That's right. Skye nodded. I thought that my parents are ordinary human beings. After I find them, we will live happily together, but, having said this, Skye sighed again. But Mr. Hyde and Miss Jia-Ying are completely different from what you think. Mr. Hyde is a neurotic mad scientist, and Miss Jia-Ying makes you feel very unfamiliar. She seems to only care about the interests of the Inhumans, and has never cared about what you dare to say. Am I right? 5. Levi's shrugged. Skye's eyes lit up when she heard the words. She nodded and said, yes, that's what it looks like. So you're at a loss right now and don't know how to get along with them? Levi's said again. Can you tell me what to do, Vice? Everything he said was completely a reflection of Skye's heart now. It was because of this complicated emotion that she couldn't sleep, so she came to Levi's unknowingly. In fact, even she herself did not understand why she would subconsciously confide in Levi's. Well, this question is quite simple. 35. To do this? Skye asked expectantly. It's very simple. You only need to be my girlfriend, so everyone in the X-Men will be your best friend, and on the side of the Inhumans, your mother will be afraid of my strength, and will not. How about pointing fingers at you? This method is simple enough, Levi's said half-jokingly. Skye rolled her eyes immediately after hearing what he said, but after thinking about it, this method can really solve her current headache. And didn't the mother also make herself his woman before? Looking at the extraordinary and handsome Levi's in front of him, Skye felt a little moved in his heart. But what about your other women? They are 4.1, they are very talkative and won't have any opinion on you being my woman. Levi's waved his hand and smiled, and at the same time he was a little surprised. No, in fact, what he said just now was really just a joke. However, he underestimated his own charm and the super ability of affinity. Although Skye kept telling himself that Levi's had a woman, and there was more than one woman, and he had a lot of fun. Totally a perverted dude. But after getting along for so many days, Skye found that Levi's mysterious, powerful and handsome, seemed to attract her all the time. Let her fall into it involuntarily. Thinking of this, Skye leaned over again with a blurred expression. Seeing this, Levi's didn't know that the flickering was successful, although he was a little surprised, but now he can only blame himself for being too handsome. Chapter 147. Go to the military base and capture the obelisk. The next day, the morning sun shines in the room. Levi's woke up and stretched involuntarily, only to find that his left arm was a little heavy. Looking at Skye who was sleeping beside him, Levi's couldn't help but smile. It seems that he is not bad at fooling people. In just a few words, Skye was fooled. This girl is really cute and silly, and luckily she met her. Levi's thought triumphantly. He was just about to get up, but he didn't expect to be pulled by Skye. Vice, what should I do now? Skye looked at him pitifully. What should I do? Skye, you'll be my woman from now on. Levi's was a little confused. I can't get out of bed. Skye blushed. Only just now did she realize that her whole body was sore and weak, and she had no strength at all. If this was discovered by her father and mother, she would have died on the spot. That's it. Levi's thought there was a big problem, but that's what she said. Hurry up and find a way for me. Skye held his hand. Don't worry, look at my. Levi's stretched out his hand as he spoke, wanting to use molecular manipulation to heal Skye's injury. However, Skye took his hand and gave him a blank look. Not now. Where did you think of going? Levi's nodded her forehead amusingly, then used molecular manipulation to heal her injuries in an instant. Okay, you can get up now. 9. Skye was stunned for a moment, and then tried to get up, only to find that his body's injuries were completely healed, and his whole body's strength had recovered. It's really good, let's go out. Skye was ready to get dressed, but was snatched by Levi's. I think I can get some more sleep. 5. Noon. Levi's and Skye came out of the room. Jia-Ying didn't have any dissatisfaction when she saw this with a smile on her face. She wished that Levi's had some relationship with the Inhumans, and now her daughter has a relationship with the other party. Then the matter of the Cree ruins is even better. Although Mr. Hyde was a little upset, he didn't say anything. It was obvious that Jia-Ying had done ideological work for him, and the daughter has grown up, What's wrong with having a level 5 mutant as a boyfriend? Skye only felt a little embarrassed when they didn't speak. Levis didn't have any embarrassment. After taking Skye to lunch, he was ready to set off to capture the obelisk. This is a map of the terrain in the military base that we have lost a lot of people to get. Jia Ying handed over a map. Levis glanced at it and gave it back to her. He only needed the location of the military base. As for the terrain guards inside, it was completely useless. Is Mr. Vice ready to go alone? Don't you need to call other mutants? Jia Ying asked with some doubts. No need. Besides, I'm not alone. Levis waved his hand and pulled Skye up. This time he was going with Skye. The military base is full of dangers. How can you take Daisy there? Hyde questioned with a frown. Your so-called military bases may be dangerous to you, but for me it's just for fun. Don't worry about it. Levis waved his hand indifferently, and before they could continue to say anything, he disappeared with Skye in place. Jia Ying and Hyde frowned upon seeing this. The other side. Levis and Skye had arrived outside the military base. Vice, how are we going to get in? Skye asked curiously. Definitely walked right in. The corners of Levi's mouth twitched slightly, and then he pulled Skye and walked past the front door. Skye's heart jumped to his throat when he saw this, but neither the patrolling soldiers nor the soldiers guarding the gate seemed to have seen them. No reaction at all. While Skye was a little surprised, he also had some understanding of Levi's power. Vice, why can't they see us? Skye couldn't help but asked curiously. Because we're invisible, they definitely can't see us, Levi's explained with a smile. Are we invisible? Skye was stunned. Yes, you see, after Levi's finished speaking, he pulled her to a soldier and waved, but the soldier did not respond. It's amazing. Skye also waved his hand, but it seemed that because the wind caused by the wave was a bit strong, the soldier in front of him couldn't help but blink, with a puzzled expression on his face. Haha, it's so fun. After the two walked away, Skye couldn't help laughing. Have fun. I have more fun, come with me. Saying that, Levis dragged her to the wall that entered the military base. Vice, can't we go through the main entrance? Skye was a little puzzled. Definitely, but it's more convenient here. Levis smiled mysteriously, then pulled Skye and rammed it towards the wall. 99. Skye was shocked, but did not expect the two to have entered through the wall. This suddenly made her dumbfounded again. Haha Tilda, don't be stupid, let's go. Levis pulled her into the underground base amusingly. Vice, what was that ability just now? Can there still be so many abilities for mutants? 35. Skye, who had come to his senses, was immediately curious about Levis. She thought she knew him, but now she realized that she didn't know this man at all. The one just now is traveling, which can pass through any object, even time and space. It is one of my super abilities that is easier to use, Levis explained with a smile. Skye was a little shocked when he heard it. So how many super abilities do you have, Vice? Well, 10, 20. It's hard to count, maybe more than 100. In order to make her accept it better, Levis deliberately only said more than 100 ability. In fact, if you add magic, he has at least 1,000 super abilities. However, most of them are not very useful, or have higher level ability instead. So there are only 20 or 30 super abilities that are really useful. What? 35. Even so, Skye couldn't help but scream. What the hell are hundreds of super abilities? Although Skye doesn't know much about mutants, he also knows that ordinary mutants only have one super ability. She has never seen someone with so many super abilities like him. I don't know if it was because of Skye's alarm that the entire underground base suddenly sounded an alarm. Oops. It's all my fault. Skye apologized apologetically, apparently thinking that she had set off the alarm. Chapter 148. Sign into the obelisk. Super ability petrification. Levis shook his head and smiled. It's not your fault, but another group of people invaded here, and they should have set off the alarm. Has another group invaded too? Skye was stunned for a moment. Yes, but ignore them. Let's find the obelisk first. 95. Having said that, Levis used electromagnetic waves to invade the network system of the entire base, but he found the location of the obelisk in a moment. Immediately afterwards, he pulled Skye straight forward, and when he encountered a wall or something, he went straight through. In just 5 minutes, the two of them came to a warehouse. There are a lot of guns and ammunition in this warehouse, but it's just superficially fooling people. Coming to the innermost part of the warehouse, Levis directly knocked a hole in the wall, and then took out an iron box from it. The iron box is marked with the word 084. That's right, this should be the obelisk. 35. Skye said in surprise. That should be it. Levis nodded with a smile. Da. At this moment, there was a sound of gunfire outside the warehouse. He used perspective to look and found that some masked soldiers with hot weapons were exchanging fire with soldiers in the military base. What happened outside? Skye asked curiously. It's the people who invaded here who are exchanging fire with the soldiers in the military base. Don't worry about them. The things have been obtained. Let's go back. Levis couldn't be bothered to care about these things. Anyway, they were invisible all the time, and no one knew that the obelisk was taken by him. And these Kamar soldiers have become scapegoats. After he finished speaking, he pulled Skye, and the two instantly disappeared into the military base. Returned to the Inhumans hideaway. Coming back so soon? Hyde happened to see the two who had just returned, and he frowned and walked over. Didn't you find that military base? I found it. Skye wondered why he asked. But you've been gone for less than half an hour? Hyde looked at the time and found that only half an hour had passed since they had just disappeared and now appeared. How could it be possible to get something in such a short period of time? I think Mr. Hyde, you should go back to sleep. Levis coughed dryly. The potential meaning of what he said was that Hyde didn't wake up, or didn't he see such a big iron box in his hand? Hyde frowned a little bit. Skye glanced at him and understood what he meant. Dad, we've actually got the obelisk, look. This is it. Skye pointed to the iron box in Levi's hands. Did you get it? Hyde looked at the iron box, his eyes widened and he couldn't believe it. After all, it was too shocking to get the obelisk in half an hour. You must know that this is something that the Inhumans have tried to get through for so many years. Levi smiled helplessly at Skye and said, okay, let's go see your mother and give her this thing. In the reception room, Jia had already been informed of the incident, and when she learned that Levi's had only returned in half an hour, she was a little worried that he did not get the obelisk. But when Levi's put the obelisk directly in front of her, she realized the power of the 5th level mutant. The obelisk that the Inhumans tried their best to get, but after the 5th level mutant shot, it took only half an hour to get it. This really shocked Jia. This should be what you want. Levi's folded his arms and smiled. Jia looked at the iron box. There was absolutely no difference from the photo. However, if you want to determine whether there is an obelisk in it, you still need to open it and take a look. It didn't bother her. After a while, the iron box was opened, and a silver square-shaped object appeared in front of several people. That's right. After Jia saw the obelisk, she immediately picked it up excitedly, and then the surface of the obelisk emitted a faint golden light, and strange lines appeared on the surface one after another. Seeing this, Levi's frowned slightly. He knew that not everyone could touch the obelisk. Ordinary people would be petrified instantly if they did. Only the Inhumans can easily touch the obelisk without being hurt. But he wasn't so terrified of it. Can I find the Inhuman ruins through this thing? 99. Definitely can. Jia nodded, and then recorded it on the paper according to the lines on the obelisk's surface. Daisy, come here. When it was almost recorded, Jia called to Skye. Is there anything I need to do? Skye walked over suspiciously. This is a map to the Cree ruins. I need you to enter what I drew into the computer. Jia explained. Okay, I'll do it right away. When she heard it was a map, Skye took out the computer she carried with her and started typing, but she was stumped when she first started typing. Is this really a map? Sorry, I don't see any map features in it. Skye looked at Jia helplessly. You take it the other way around, you just need to choose 90 degrees to make a 3D model. 35 Jia explained lightly. Yes. Skye turned the notes in embarrassment, but this time she understood. Levi, who was on the side, couldn't help but laugh out loud. In fact, the secret of the so-called obelisk was built like this. I remember the original Phil Coulson, after getting the obelisk, studied it day and night for a long time, and then tried his best to kill several small bosses. Maybe Phil Coulson's hair went bald because of it. Daisy, please print out 2 copies of the map. Jia put down there, Lily's obelisk, then looked at him and said, the Inhumans need to be prepared, and Mr. Vice can also take advantage of this time to make the mutants. Get ready. How about we act together in 2 days? Levi's nodded. No problem. 35. There is no hurry to find the Cree ruins, and he can also sign in the Inhumans at this opportunity. Ding. Does the host sign into the obelisk? Double experience or super ability? Sign into super ability. Ding. Sign in successfully. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the super ability petrochemical, with 100 experience points. Petrochemical copy? Levi's was stunned for a moment, but he didn't expect it to be this ability, and he felt that it was somewhat inconsistent with the obelisk. Because someone once said that the obelisk is an item of the same level of police as the infinite gems, but there is no performance in the original work. Just showing the ability to petrify people and awaken aliens. Chapter 149 Entering the underground ruins of the Cree. How strong is LV5 petrochemical? Levi's can petrify anything like the sight, which is comparable to Medusa's petrified eye. And if this move is unexpected, the enemy is difficult to guard against. It can be said to be a very powerful ability. 2 days later, Levi's and the Inhumans led by Jia went to the site of the Cree ruins together. This is an ordinary town. This town looks very ancient, and the people living here dress and live like ancient people, as if they are isolated from the world. These people may never know that there are huge amounts of alien relics hidden under this land where they live. In addition to him and Jia, the people who came this time were Skye, Mr. Hyde, Gordon with teleportation, and a middle-aged man named Lincoln. If I remember correctly, this middle-aged man's ability is discharge. Everyone entered the town together. Residents of the town were also very curious about their arrival. Let's look around for the entrance to the ruins first. 9. Jia looked at the town and said to everyone, the whole town is not big or small, and it is not easy to find the entrance. However, Levi's waved his hand and said, Don't bother, since you are sure that the remains of the Cree are underground, then just go directly. 99. Several people in Jiaying frowned when they heard what he said, not understanding what he was going to do directly. Is it necessary to dig a vertical downward channel in the ground? Skye thought of something. Me and Skye go down and see. Come pick you up if we can. Levis was too lazy to explain anything, pulled Skye aside, and then the two slowly sank to the ground. So he still has this ability. 9. Jiaying sighed, and then her face became serious. Now that the two have gone down, what if Levis sees something good and doesn't come up? However, apparently Levis is not as careful as she is. After diving for a few hundred meters, they saw a huge amount of cave as expected. There is a majestic underground city in the cave, which makes people feel incredible. Without stopping, Levis pulled Skye to the ground again. How is it? Did you find it? Jiaying hurriedly asked when she saw them coming up. I found it. There really is a city underground. Levis nodded. Then let's hurry down. Jiaying couldn't wait. Hand in hand. I'll take you all down. Hearing that, Jiaying and Hyde held hands, and then pulled Skye. Seeing this, Levis used traveling again, and then several people slowly sank into the ground. Soon, several people entered the underground ruins. It's so dark. There was no light in the underground ruins. Almost nothing could be seen. Skye could only hold the back of Levi's hand tightly. Levis waved one hand, and several flames burned around the crowd, and all around were illuminated in an instant. Is this the remains of the Cree? It looks quite big. Mr. Hyde sighed while looking around. Does your mother know these words? What does it say? Skye couldn't help being curious when she saw Jiaying staring at a wall. It's just some words of praise for the gods. The real value should be in the center of the ruins. Jiaying retracted her gaze and looked at the center of the ruins, but it was pitch black and couldn't see anything. There are also patterns on the ground, but they don't look like murals. I don't know what's the use. 35. Hyde knelt on one knee on the ground and carefully looked at the pattern on the ground, and then he stretched out his hand. Don't move, Jiaying shouted suddenly. Hyde stopped his arm and looked at her suspiciously. This is the remains of the Cree people. There are many traps, so don't touch things randomly. 35. Jiaying warned. Hyde, who was warned, had to stand up and stay away from those strange patterns. Seeing this, Levis didn't show any expression, just grabbed Skye's hand tightly. The group moved forward in the darkness. Lincoln and Gordon were at the forefront. At this moment, a few weirdos in camouflage uniforms and fully armed suddenly appeared in front. Who are you? Lincoln and Gordon were shocked when they saw the living person. However, these fully armed weirdos did not answer their questions, but raised their daggers and rushed towards the two. Lincoln and Gordon saw this without hesitation. I saw a flash of lightning in the air, and in an instant, several weirdos were electrocuted into coke. There's more here. Skye keenly discovered that there were also a few weirdos rushing over behind him, and some of them were firearms for the first time. Bang 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 bang. Countless bullets shot towards several people. Jiaying's complexion changed greatly when she saw this, and then she hid behind Levis and Skye. Seeing this, Hyde took the initiative to stand in front of her, ready to take drugs and transform at any time. However, Levis didn't even look behind him, and saw that all the bullets that were fired were hovering in the air. Immediately afterwards, all bullets were reflected back at a faster speed under the manipulation of electromagnetic force. PSST. There was a sound of flesh being shot through, but in the blink of an eye, all the weirdos in full armor were shot through their heads. Immediately after that, all the weirdos fell to the ground in a neat and uniform manner. Just when everyone thought the threat was lifted, these fully armed monsters who had fallen to the ground stood up again. How is that possible? These eccentrics have come back to life? Their wounds are healing. Skye couldn't help but startle draw. Levis was also a little surprised when he saw this. He didn't expect that these people were still able to stand up after being shot through the head. No, these people seemed to be under control. Levis frowned, and he keenly found that these people's eyes were completely lost, and there were strange patterns on their bare skin. Wait, these are the guides of the Holy Land. At this time, Jiaying finally recognized it and took out the obelisk at the same time with her contact. The surface of the obelisk suddenly exudes a faint light. These weirdos who had stood up again and wanted to attack suddenly stopped. There should be another group who entered the ruins like us. Jiaying seems to be able to feel the thoughts of these weirdos, and the appearance of these weirdos in full armor is obviously from the outside world. Chapter 150. The core of the ruins. The change of the obelisk. Jiaying, who owns the obelisk, seems to be able to control these people who are controlled by strange forces. Take us to find them, Jiaying ordered in a cold voice. The weirdos seemed to be able to understand her words, and they turned around and walked in the other direction. Let's go, let's follow them to find another group of people. If I guess correctly, these people are definitely my old acquaintances. In the end, Jiaying couldn't help the killing intent in her heart, and she will never forget the person who tortured her for the rest of her life. Levis folded his arms and watched all this with interest. If he guessed correctly, the other group of people should be the same group of people he met at the military base 2 days ago, and the leader of that group should be Daniel Whitehall, the leader of Hydra who once arrested Jia. The other side. Bakshi urgent raw calling Sir Tilda. Bakshi urgent raw calling Sir Tilda. Please contact. Fake. What the hell is this place? At the moment in a dark passage, a group of soldiers were trapped here, and one of the soldiers named Bakshi finally couldn't help but swear. Sir Bakshi, those infected guys are catching up again. What should I do? At this time, a heavily armed soldier hurried over to report. Damn it. Bucky looked at the soldiers who were staggering and approaching not far away with a very ugly expression. These soldiers were fine before, but after touching some unknown mechanism, they became like zombies and would attack them. And not afraid of death. Even if they were shot in the head, they could stand up again and pounce on them. Unless it's to blow them to pieces. Seeing that the bullets were useless, Bakshi resolutely threw 2 grenades. Boom. After 2 violent explosions, several of the infected freaks were instantly blown to pieces. He told her, now you can taste my power. Bakshi sneered. Sir, another weirdo is coming from here. At this time, another soldier came back to report in a panic. Don't worry, let me blow them up. Bakshi pulled back his waist, but found that there was no grenade left, and his face instantly became ugly. We withdraw. In desperation, Bakshi could only flee with the remaining soldiers without looking back. Just around the corner, however, they encountered a large number of weirdos again. Fake Tilda. Seeing this kind of weirdo before and after, Bakshi once again swears. Now they have no way out, they can only choose one direction to kill. Yet at this time, several firelights shone from the passage in front of them. What? Bucky frowned and was very puzzled. At this moment, several figures appeared in their sight. Bakshi's pupils shrank and shouted loudly, who are you? Whitehall didn't tell him that there were other people in the ruins. Humphrey, it seems that you have forgotten me. Jia sneered. It's you? At the moment, Bakshi also recognized Jia, and he couldn't believe it in his heart. This is impossible. Your heart organ has been dug up by Chief Whitehall, and it is impossible for you to be alive. 99. Bakshi knew what happened back then, and he remembered clearly the appearance of the woman in front of him. But the organs in the other party's body have obviously been transplanted to Whitehall. Why is he still alive and appearing in front of him now? Bastard, do you remember what she did? When Mr. Hyde heard this, he was immediately angry, and even his body swelled in anger. I will tear you to shreds, Hyde roared, as if rushing up. But he was stopped by Jia. Calvin, stop. Hyde looked at her suspiciously. Jia didn't explain anything. She looked at Bakshi with a murderous face and asked, tell me, where is Whitehall? Sir is not here. 35. Bucky said with an ugly expression. You lied to me. Jia looked at Bakshi with cold eyes, as if looking at a dead man. I don't have to lie to you, and I don't know where the officer is. He will only come down after he is sure of safety. Bakshi at the moment has been heartbroken, facing so many weird people. They have no way to survive, not to mention there are Inhumans watching. At the moment, he already hated his superior. Damn, since he didn't come, then you die instead of him. 55. Asking for flowers. Jia face became contorted with hatred. She always remembered her hatred back then, and she often woke up from that nightmare over the years. Thinking of this, she ordered the infected soldiers to attack without hesitation. Although Bakshi wanted to pull his back before dying, he saw that his bullet did not shoot at the infected soldier, but instead shot at Jia. But Jia looked for something ready and hid directly around the corner. After all the screams had calmed down, several people appeared again. I saw that all the soldiers, including Bakshi, had all been infected. Seeing this scene, Skye couldn't bear to turn his head and lay in Levi's arms. Jia looked at these people with cold eyes, turned her head to inadvertently looked at Levi's behind her, and then turned her head back. Let's move on. No one spoke, and several people continued to advance in the dark. The underground ruins of the Cree people are really not small. After walking for nearly an hour, they approached the central area. The murals on the surrounding walls also gradually changed, and those murals recorded how the Cree created the Inhumans. Come to the central area of the ruins. I saw that there is a football field file size, like a sacrificial jar. There were also 6 huge amounts of slate left beside the memorial. In the center of the slab is wrapped a stone pillar. It was at this moment that the obelisk in Jia hand flew out automatically and flew to the top of the stone pillar. Boom! The ground shook suddenly. Immediately after, another 6 slates suddenly appeared, combining with the previous 6 slates. In an instant, the entire crab sacrifice turned into a spherical closed space. The ceremony is about to begin. Jia became excited watching the changes around her. Are you sure you don't want to explain it? Levi's asked Jia playfully with his arms crossed. What will happen? Skye also felt something was wrong at this time. You'll understand later. Jia smiled mysteriously, without any explanation. At this moment, the obelisk floating above the stone pillar suddenly cracked, revealing the blue crystal inside. Immediately after that, the blue crystal kept getting bigger, but it had more than doubled in size in the blink of an eye. If you like this audiobook, subscribe the channel for more videos like this. And join my Patreon if you want to support me, link is in the description. Leave some comment and let me know if you guys like this story, or you have a web novel you like and want to hear its audiobook. I will be happy to create them for you. Please like, share, and leave a comment on the video.